All right, yes. We did actually rearrange the set just then because Lucy called out the fact that wasn't really conducive to me being able to see anyone else.
Like you were talking to Tam and I'm sat there going.
Doing these ones, yeah. So this is it.
We're in a hotel room.
Yeah.
All right, it's tough.
It
all
is.
my equipment, I'm like bad at this, so I'm trying my
You're
best.
great.
Okay.
You have a
Listen.
giant, you should see the box we carry around with all that stuff, by the way.
When you looked at me, I was like, she's about to get mad that I'm talking about my travel hoodie again. So I just went like this.
Your travel hoodie's great.
Yeah, but I was talking about it and I thought you were going to go, can we get on with the thing, please? I was like,
Can we stop talking about travel?
Travel
hoodies. Yeah, I agree.
Look at hoodies. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I really want. The thing about your travel hoodie, it's really good. It's got loads of pockets in.
Sure.
That's important.
I am a tissue in the pocket person.
Ooh, okay.
yeah.
That's
Alright,
too
fair
dangerous
enough.
for me.
Like, yeah. Just
Yeah.
Like open the washing machine and it just looks like
Oh,
confetti.
that's
in
So
there.
I have
my
it. I have it. I dedicate them. So like the pocket over here is for my AirPods. So in the kangaroo pouch, there's actually a zipped pocket within that,
Sure.
which I put my passport in,
Sure.
and then my other headphones, if I need them, wired ones, over here, and any like stuff like pills or something.
Where do your Raycons go, by the way, Tam? I'm sure you have a place for your Raycons.
Raycons?
Yeah,
What
you
about
have a
your-
place for your Raycon headphones, right?
Yeah, I do have a place for my Raycon headphones. My heart.
That's great, Tam.
Nice.
Thanks.
Nice save, man. Very nice save. That's right. That's
Welcome
right.
to the Friends Per Second podcast. This is episode 47.
Say it. Say it like Diana.
47. Is that good?
That's pretty good.
That's not bad, actually.
Diana.
That's right.
47. I love them. Just
Wait, love
just a
who?
good dynamic.
The
Really
47,
dynamic.
47 and Diana.
Have
Like
they,
it's just a
I
good.
can't remember. Have they
good
ever
vibe.
like kissed or anything?
They shared
They
a
had that
dance
one
in
dance,
Hitman 3,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I fucking love.
That's basically a kiss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a colleague. It was like a shared colleague dance. It was
Okay.
nice.
Then it's not.
They're not.
No,
no,
no.
no.
Like,
It's like,
like,
it's a great working
Iron
relationship.
Man and Pepper, same thing.
No,
right?
that escalated
It's a
into
romance. Or is it? I don't remember. We are here for Summer Game Fest talking about all the things, the presentations, the games that we've played. We have a lot. This is going to be a really long episode.
Yeah. Buckle up.
We also talked to the folks behind Star Wars Outlaws and had a pretty good conversation there. But to start, I don't have anything in front of me. So what do we want to talk about?
Well,
Yeah.
I reckon we should just do general Summer Games vibe check because we've been here now for a week.
Yeah.
Because you've been here even longer because you had some
Yeah.
other stuff going on first.
Yeah.
I arrived and then you arrived on like the Tuesday?
so you were Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
That's it. And now it is the following Tuesday. So we've been here in LA, huffing down air conditioning for a solid week.
And you can tell by
And
how we
yeah.
all sound.
I've actually been sick as a dog as well. Like I've been
Do you not huff
properly
down
sick.
air conditioning at home?
no.
I mean, no, not
You don't
really.
have air conditioning in Australia?
Okay, funnily enough, Sydney is a funny place. Okay, first of all, I do in some places in my house, not others. Sydney, that was a bit funny because we're kind of in this space where it's not hot enough for everyone to have air conditioning, and it's not cold enough for everyone to have heating. So Sydney kind of just gets fucked both ways, like when it comes to the seasons, right?
It's terrible.
But like, how do we get onto this topic?
Well, you're also sat right in front of the air
I'm sat
conditioning.
right in front of the AC. So that's
Is that coming through? Because I can hear it from
I can look. It's fine.
It's
It'll
fine.
be
AI will fix
AI
us all.
will fix it.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, we're coming in hot. So
But it has been now a full week that we've been here. And how did you guys feel? Because we've done Summer Games Fest now. This is the third Summer Games, right?
yeah.
in person. There was a digital one.
Correct. There was a digital one which no one remembers. No one really. That was just like a webinar showcase from Jeff, right?
yeah.
And so this is the third actual in-person one. Very interesting to track like how it's
Grown.
progressed over the years.
Yeah.
So yeah, how you guys feel about it?
I love this show.
Yeah, it's great.
We should actually spell out. Why don't we spell out like what it is first for
Yes.
anyone listening from home, so you know what this is versus E3 or whatever else.
So it's a collection of things, and obviously a lot of it is spearheaded or kicked off by the presentation that a lot of you guys probably watched, hosted by Jeff Keighley. The
So
Summer
that is
Game
Summer
Fest.
Game Fest.
Yes.
But then other streams are part of it, like Wholesome Direct and
Xbox technically is, I believe.
yeah,
Kind of.
like Women in Gaming one, the Mix, like they kind of all fall under the umbrella of the streaming part
Yes.
of it.
yeah.
And then along with that, there is something called Play Days, which is like the physical show floor, little type of mini baby E3.
Yeah.
And I
Which
like that
is
a lot.
Run by I Am 8-Bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
And wow, like I think I'm so used to convention centers with massive booths and just no real eye for interior design or aesthetics.
Right.
I mean, like each individual booth is, but like overall as a place. But that space is so nice.
Mhm.
Like everything is just very well considered as a show where you have to work. Like everything is a couch. Every TV is big enough. There's enough space. They have like a working area. They have space for interviews. They have pretty okay Wi-Fi. And, you
They
know,
give you little tickets
They
for
give you meal
meals.
tickets.
They give you
yeah.
And
meal
then you go
tickets.
up to a van and they give you a really nice like wrap thing.
Yeah.
And you're
and
like,
it's
hell
not
yeah.
just crap burgers
No,
and
that's
whatever
true.
you can like find. It's actual meals and sustenance.
Yeah.
But even just from the way it's structured and put together, I found like I've gotten better at my job. Like going to E3, and it's like it was always so exciting, but it was always so crazy and hectic and so many people that I never really got used to like speaking to developers and just like surface level, like other than just surface level stuff. So this type of event allows you to have plenty of time to see games, check things out, but also more personal. So it's been nice to like actually hear from developers and really be able to speak to them in this more comfortable setting.
And also, I mean, this happened at E3, but not as much. But a lot of stuff that we saw is embargoed. So
Yeah.
it's not just everyone doing a mad dash to get
Yes.
coverage out. And it's, you can spend more time and make it more.
Yeah, that's the one thing from this year that I thought was really helpful. I don't know if it was just like we got lucky or, you know, it was a concerted effort in making sure stuff has some breathing room. But the fact that not everything was immediately a mad dash made it easier to make content on the stuff that it was available to publish, and also plan your time to do the other stuff next week or the week after, or wherever it may be, and can be more considered and like creative about it. The other thing I really love about it was what Lucy said is there's not like this bleeding effect between all the different companies. Like remember when E3 had the convention and like Sega was next to Nintendo and like everyone had their own like soundtrack playing and it would all like become this really weird sensory overload. Over here, everyone has like a little section where you feel like you're going into a theme park, you know? It's like, oh, we're in the, you know, Devolver section. You come out of that and then you go into the Capcom section. And once you're in there, you're not like really like bombarded by everyone else at the same time. So you can focus a bit more.
Yes. Part of me though misses that sound.
The chaos.
That sound of chaos.
Well, I mean,
it's like
But then explosions and
Totally.
gunfire also.
I was gonna say
Yes.
you got Gamescom for that now.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Yeah, I do miss E3. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I'll always miss E3. Was very lucky to have gone, but I really, really like Play Days. And I also like that it's scaling up, you know, it's the third in-person one, but it's not making the big jump to whatever. It is still a very manageable show. It's really nice. There are some good games, some that we can't talk about today, but a lot that we can. It's just, it feels so stupid to just say the vibes were really nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like, and also
Sure.
just the vibes were nice.
Yeah, and you get to actually see people that you work with, you know, peers in around the industry, and have a small conversation in between things instead of just being like, my next appointment is on the other side of the convention
Yeah, I'm in
hall.
West Hall.
fucking hallway.
Bye.
I can
I need
only
to walk 3 blocks.
yeah, I can only give you a thumbs up and move on. It's like, oh, we stopped to talk to a bunch of people we hadn't seen in so long, and be like, it was good. There's a camaraderie there. It's weirdly, it felt like the antidote to the past few years of being isolated in a lot of ways. It feels like it came at the right time and was the right thing for us specifically. And I don't think that it's diminished the quality of what people at home are getting. It's only improved it.
It's interesting. First of all, by the way, welcome, Tam.
Oh, hi, Tam.
We forgot to say thank you
More
for joining
Hussein.
us. That's right.
Very bad at introducing you.
It's fine.
New listeners might not know, but you are the
Podcast Goblin.
Podcast Goblin.
That's what we
Podcast
said.
Goblin.
Fair to
Cool.
say.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, Evil Dead, the lad in the basement.
Under the hash.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
me.
Yeah.
That's me.
So yeah, it's interesting you say that about like experience at home, because every tweet that I've seen so far has been like, I miss E3.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone's like, Summer Games Fest sucks. And it's like, I mean, it's hard for me to, okay, do I think E3 is better? Yes. Would I prefer that this was E3? Yes. Do I prefer to cover E3 as opposed to covering Summer Games Fest? Yes. But would I rather there's nothing? Because E3 doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
No. And so this is like the next best thing that we've got. And E3 is never coming back. But that's just not happening, right? It's done and dusted. It's settled. It's never happening. And so then it's becoming like, then it becomes like, you know, well, is this an okay compromise? I feel like it is personally. And I agree. I definitely feel like E3 was a better experience for a variety of reasons, but I'm still really glad that this is here, you know?
The thing is, I physically don't think I could cover E3.
No.
I'm not in my 20s anymore.
No.
Like, I'm exhausted from this weekend.
Sure.
And thinking back to the stuff we got up to at E3.
Yeah.
I never ate.
It was a different time.
It was a different time.
There's been a lot of comparisons to E3 this year specifically, more so than any other. And I think it's because it kind of felt like E3, like a little bit, just enough that people were like thinking about E3 again. I saw multiple people
I
tweet.
saw the Games Industry Biz headline from today was about like the vibes.
Yeah, it felt like E3 in a lot of ways. And, you know, we had our own stuff. We had like our streams in the during the day and then Giant Bomb at night. And people, you know, came onto there and they were hanging out in our studio, and it felt like E3 a lot of times. And people tweeted as much, being like, you know, it kind of feels like E3.
If you had, like, because Xbox, and I think part of that is because Xbox had a really great showcase.
Yeah.
That brought some of that vibe. I think if you had a really massive showcase from Sony and, are you right, Jake? I think if you had a really massive showcase from Sony and Nintendo as well, and if they had a physical presence here, all of them, you know, because Microsoft had a little bit, and like Sony had a tiny little area and Nintendo had nothing. But if they were also here in some way and made their presence be felt, I'm like, yeah, I could feel like we're kind of at like a mini E3 at this point, you know?
I think as well, just in terms of the way things line up, you can't. I mean, Nintendo's pushed everything to next year, so maybe that will be the year that they decide. Like, what if they came this year? What would they have had?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and also potentially speaks to how the evolutionary path, like what Summer Game Fest Play Days is entirely dictated by the publishers and companies involved. Because if they suddenly scale up, you know, to be like, we got a bunch of games to show, a bunch of big games. Then the show kind of has to react and do the same to accommodate that stuff. So I'm interested to see how, like Lucy said, once stuff starts aligning for a bunch of these companies to have things to show, whether that Sony will come back and be like, oh, this is a show that we can be part of, not put hundreds of thousands of dollars just to be, you know, present alone, and also own their own kind of space.
That's another reason why E3 just can't continue to exist as it used to, which is like back in the day, AAA turnaround, like development timelines were much shorter. Yeah. And so there was a lot more of them. And, you know, the publishers kind of had to choose what not to show in their showcases because there's so many games coming down the pipeline, right? So here though, you've got to wait like 6 or 7 years for AAA games. And that means there's going to be 2 to 3 years where publishers just don't have much to show because all their studios are working right now. And that's exactly where Sony is. And I mean, Nintendo obviously, as we're well aware of. But yeah, so like we will see, I think, these ebb and flow where like some years it's going to suck and other years it's going to be like, holy shit. And I think Xbox kind of had one of those holy shit years this year, even though I'm a little bit skeptical of some of that stuff. But definitely they had a fantastic showcase that made you feel like very optimistic about what's ahead in a way that Nintendo can't do right now because they can't talk at the moment. And Sony can't do either because they're just deep in development timeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that one of the byproducts or the symptoms of this change is like the death of the vertical slice. Like you don't, the vast majority of playable games here are indie games or small scale games. Yeah. And that's the other major downside of it. It's like the biggest games you see, the most exciting games that are outwardly that way. Like, we love indie games, but like to people who want the big blockbuster experience, we can't play a lot of those games because developers can't afford to create specific slices of games anymore.
Yeah, so like, because when is Dragon Age Dreadwolf out? It's like soon, right?
Fall.
Okay, right? That was playable theater. That was not playable here. That was a theater presentation here.
They were playing the game.
They were playing the game, but that's very different to us being able to play the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, that game is out pretty soon and we weren't able to play it. You know, like Indiana Jones is apparently out at the end of the year. We weren't able to play it. We did get to play Stalker. For sure.
Avowed didn't get to play?
Didn't get to play Avowed. Stalker Slice was very short, and we'll talk about that more in the show, but like I don't think it was a great demonstration of what this game hopefully is. But yeah, like we did play, I played Astrobot and Lego, but these are like smaller titles in inverted commas compared to like, it's not like we played the next, you know, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, whatever, you know what I mean?
Well, even all the stuff that Microsoft showed off, like very little of it was playable.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like there's a high to it. And then before it was like, and now you can play it. And like it got announced, Gears has been announced. We played a little bit of it. Here's what it is. Now it's just an announcement. And those blockbuster games you just don't see again.
Yeah.
I mean, even when we were chatting to the Outlaws team, they were like, yeah, this demo is going to be at Gamescom as well. Because, it used to be, and especially towards the end of E3's life when it became half business and half consumer show, there was value in them making more demos, more vertical slices, et cetera. But now, I guess...
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Very.
Yeah.
But overall, our sentiment is, I know we just had like this is missing, we don't like this part of it. But overall, our sentiment is like the show is great. Shout out to I Am 8-Bit and, you know.
Yeah, and Jeff Keighley as well, I think. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I guess, I agree with you completely. I think it's getting better every year in noticeable ways. We don't give a lot of feedback on it per se. I just think it's naturally, organically growing. And I like the direction where it's headed. It doesn't feel obnoxious. It feels just like, good vibes. And they're protecting that at this point, and I'm about it.
I also think that while for people at home, it might not feel as much of like a massive like crater impact that E3 left. It's kind of like, I feel like even at the time of we're recording this now, people have already kind of like, okay, cool, moved on. Like Xbox stuff was announced. But the difference here is what we mentioned before with stuff being embargoed. We're seeing a lot of stuff, and then that stuff that information is going to trickle out.
True.
So it's a little bit of a different distribution, but I think it's overall good for the industry and information. So yeah, we made it.
The one thing that is just left is like mainstream coverage. That's gone. That's the one thing that the death of the E3 also lost. Like people outside of the gaming specialty space, there's very few, you know, BBCs, you know, CNBCs
that's
of the
when we
world.
would get hit up from the UK.
Exactly.
Like Sky and the BBC
And
be like, we know what E3 is. We don't know what anything else but E3.
That is what gave it that more global, like big crater impact feel moment. It was like everyone was covering it because it was easy for these major publications and media companies to know what that is, look at it and be like, oh, this is a major moment for video games. We can send some people here and it's done. That went away. So most of those people are just like, we don't have to worry about video games now. You have to like fight for it, and you get like The Guardian or, you know, smaller Washington Post, whatever it may be, doing small coverage.
I don't think Gene's here.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Even that part of it, like, it's just like you get much less mainstream coverage of it. And I think that it also impacts decisions from publishers and developers as well. Like, is it worth it? No, probably.
The other interesting thing is this shift, like you mentioned, the lack of those types of people. But I've met at Summer Game Fest so many TikTok content creators and like live streamers and stuff where it's like, oh yeah, like you guys, like that wasn't around for E3 and now you guys are here. But like, yeah, again, where's like the BBC and stuff like that. So
I definitely saw streamers at E3, but not TikTok content creators. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean
TikTok wasn't a thing.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because it is still a very different approach to stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're not hardcore gaming journalists. They're just, and some of them are there to get deals with some of these companies and meet these people.
Also, it just wasn't possible for a single creator to come to the show and get in and also like be a one person media creation system. Now it's like you can, if you want to come with your phone, a tripod, a microphone, and do fine. Like you don't have to bring a video team anymore. And like,
I mean, to be fair, we were doing that. Like, we were doing that years ago. I mean, I was doing that.
That's what I mean. But like the barrier is so low now. Like a TikTok, I can just be like, I'm going to cover this just by pointing my camera at my face, and that's it. And that's valid. Like if you did that, applied with the ESA or the E3 organization to be like, I'm going to come and just cover this with my phone, they'd be like, you're not legitimate, get out of here. Yeah. Whereas now they want that.
So in terms of breaking down the events, we should start with the one that kicked everything off. It is the Summer Game Fest presentation featuring Jeff Keighley.
Yes.
How do we feel about it overall? Just like surface level, like I'm not into grading these things. Like, oh, it was a 9.3 out of 10. Well, I don't care.
Jeff put out a tweet poll. And he's like, how would you rate this? And everyone's like, D. This is a bold choice, Jeff. Respect it.
It didn't have a lot of heavy hitters. It had a lot of updates and smaller announcements. I thought it was all right.
I've got my big handwritten list.
Yes.
It was like almost 60 games.
There was a lot of stuff.
There was I think in terms of a showcase, I really liked it because it was very balanced. Like, everyone's missing the hard hitters, whatever. But I just think in terms of the array of games on show.
Sure.
There was a lot in there that I showed you my little spreadsheet that I made from Day of the Devs that I'm going to be updating after this. I was like, I want to see more from Never, from the Greece team.
That did look cool.
What was it? Like the Metaphor showing and having Sojima-san and Hashino-san out there. What else? Ken. Killer Bean, Blumhouse. Like there was a lot of stuff. Felt very
Minimal ads too.
yeah.
Yeah, probably.
The Alan Wake
like,
stuff. Sam coming out.
Doing a little dance.
I think, yeah, like saying that it doesn't have a lot of heavy hitters. Like I don't know about quite.
But I think I think people are thinking, oh, Call of Duty or GTA 6.
Sure.
Like, but in terms of like a variety of interesting games, I don't think there was any that particularly felt like
there was no stinkers or anything like that. No.
there was some that I was just like, okay, that's maybe not really for me, but I could see the value and why it's here.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
I think people need to kind of not temper their expectations when it comes to big games or heavy hitters, because that's just not how it works anymore.
That's what it seems like. Yeah. It feels like.
Back then you had one outlet or one or two outlets to get your big game shown, and it was E3, a press conference there. These days, in a world where publishers spend time, money, and effort controlling the message and can put on their own events, it's much harder for a Keighley to go out there and be like, "You, this is the only way to show off your game. So give us a trailer or be involved in this." It's not how it works anymore. And so, like, in my mind, I've just accepted that we're not going to get a trailer for GTA unexpectedly popping up. So for my mind, it's like, is this good based on what Keighley is working with and the realities of a bit of what you can get right now?
Well, also don't forget he's got the Game Awards.
Yeah, he's got the Game Awards as well.
And opening night live.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like when it comes to that, accepting that there's not going to be blockbusters or expecting huge trailers, I think by that metric, this show was really good.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed like Lucy said, I came away very excited about a number of indie games that I saw.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that on balance, it was a good show. I think it definitely got a bit of a rough run. It wasn't particularly exciting, but if you really kind of like look at it, because it did reveal Lego Horizons, which is not for everyone, but it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter, that's big for people. Like, that's like gets a lot of headlines, of course. Star Wars Outlaws, that was there. Civilization 7
That was big.
revealed
I was
there.
really excited about that.
Black Myth Wukong was like, hey, this is still here, like a cinematic trailer. Metaphor Refantatio was there. Batman Arkham Shadow, everyone was sad about it, but it was there.
Elada.
That's right. The Blumhouse announcements were there. That was fantastic.
That was great.
The Outer
Outer
Sloth
Sloth.
stuff was
was
there.
huge.
That was fantastic. The Slitterhead reveal, that looks all kinds of weird and fucked up and could be really shit, but could also be totally awesome. We don't know. Alan Wake 2 reveal. We saw Monster Hunter Wilds, a new trailer, and Phantom Blade Zero. That's just like the big stuff, by the way, because I kind of categorize it like big, small, little, like big, medium, small.
New Sam Barlow, David Brandon Cronenberg
Totally.
game.
Cronenberg,
There's a bunch of stuff where I'm interested in a lot of it. Oh, Power Rangers! Everyone on the Giant Bomb Gamespot
Of course.
team is losing their mind over Power Rangers.
Absolutely.
I think it was a good show, and also I think Jeff definitely took on criticisms from last year. Like,
Did. What did you guys
Oh,
think
yeah.
of that opening bit that he did?
I'm not gonna lie, I was coming back in from going to the bathroom, so I missed the first little bit. But also the fact that like he had Curious Joy as a co-host. Ads were like there were ads, but they were not as intrusive. And he did mention like, hey, there are so many smaller games that we could be supporting and putting money where your mouth is and wishlisting and helping these devs. And I think he's really.
So initially when he did that thing where he was saying like, here's the, indie games are doing well, I think my response was that was a bit light on what he could have said. And then I realized actually overall it was a much stronger message because he let the games do the talking. So his message was, hey, we're having a rough time, but here's a graph basically of all these indie games that are doing extremely well. And the one thing I really want to give them credit for is I don't think they've had as good a cohesion between like the overall narrative of what the show is trying to do and the theme, because the theme of this one was like indies are built for success. And he showed that message at the start and then showed off just banger after banger indie game, and each time reinforced the fact that these can succeed on the same scale, not the same scale, but like to a scale that means that, it's almost as important as big budget games. So the way like that thread carried through, I thought was really, really, really expertly done.
Yeah.
I mean, Inner Sloth were there and they have, we've got the Among Us TV show coming out, right? With a banger cast. And then they showed a trailer with no voice acting in it. But it's like, I get it, because they were like, here's all the names of everything. But it was like, they had ample time on stage to announce, we are supporting indie games, we're doing a fund, and here's a list of the people that we're already supporting. So that in itself is getting people's attention on a huge stage that, like, Inner Sloth has an audience, like a massive audience. but giving opportunity like the new team, the new game from the Venba team, for example, or from Eka and his studio, Outerloop. And it's like, it was cool. I
agree. I think,
and then going into Day of the Devs, which
exactly, that's the lead in for that.
Yeah.
Like millions of people, and obviously a lot of them will click off, but a lot of them won't.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them are gonna be like, hey, that game looks pretty cool, So
I'm really sad that I didn't get really much of a chance to go and actually play Day of the Dev stuff, because like it's like we watched the presentation early and I'd kind of made a hit list, but just like the way the timings worked out. But there were so many interesting games, and there was a lot of chat about how much it costs to be in Summer Game Fest, but then the I'm 8-bit team and the Day of the Devs, which is a charity now, they were tweeting out like, if you submit for Day of the Devs, you don't pay for anything. Like we get you the setup, we get you the couch, you bring the build, and you
That's
everything.
so cool.
And so it's a really
right.
great initiative, and I really love that it's so hand in hand with Summer Game Fest.
I think it's worth pointing out the one thing that was largely taken away as a negative, because it's the lightning rod for a lot of criticism. And if you don't mention it, people are going to be like, yeah, that's cool, but you didn't talk about this thing, is that chicken advert. Like,
Oh
my
God.
God.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
chicken
the
advert.
thing is, you know how I said earlier, I was like, oh, ads are pretty non-intrusive.
Yeah, that was the one.
Because I eternal sunshined that. from my
Me
life.
too.
Yeah,
Me
so
too.
that was for a mobile game called
no one knows the name of that game.
No.
Clash.
I wrote
Squad
I wrote
Up?
Squad,
Squad
but
Up.
I wrote Busters. I'm convinced that's
pretty
not
sure
actually
that's
the
not
name.
right. Yeah.
No
I
one
just-
knows, and
I'm
no
calling
one.
it Squad
I swear to
Busters.
God, I will
Yeah.
never Google it. It's
I'm-
okay.
No, I don't.
I'm pretty sure that's incorrect, because that sounds like a decent name.
Damn.
And also like acknowledging that it's a necessary evil in some ways. Like maybe that one is egregious,
Sure.
and like room for improvement on that one, because it was obnoxious on top of being really
How
long.
do they have that? I mean, I
That
know
cast,
how they have that much money, but like Chris,
I feel like
Hemsworth,
having
mate.
Chris Hemsworth was like
Chris-
obnoxious.
Chris,
I was
you
like,
can't be that
how
hard
the
up.
fuck?
Seriously, as one of my countrymen, I got to tell you, man.
The thing they do is they spend a crap ton of money to film that one skit, and then they chunk it out the
Sure.
entire time, and that's their marketing. So like you see
Yeah.
bits of it the entire year.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like the
And then it's
recut of
one
the
trailer.
Nicole Kidman AMC
I
advert.
reckon the upcoming Borderlands movie is just going to be that chicken ad for 2 hours.
Oh my
That's what I
God.
reckon.
Yeah.
It's going to be like to watch that
No.
Borderlands movie.
You might be right.
So IGN had the Borderlands movie at IGN Live, and they did put out a clip. And
I saw that clip.
I didn't watch it,
It's
but
so
I did see a
bad.
lot of reactions to it, which is basically like,
it's so terrible. It
The
was
cast is so good though. It sucks.
but like the cast is, I think it's not. I just think the cast of that movie is weird and wrong.
It's
Like,
weird, but it's like I
why
like
is
that they're all
Kate
good.
Blanchett and like Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie?
well,
Like it's
Jamie
just,
Lee Curtis is a massive gamer.
I know she is,
But
but, it's
also,
just
I love the fact that Dutch Vanderland is in that movie. Benjamin Byron Davis is in
What?
that movie.
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
All right. But still,
Now
I
we're
still
in, now
believe.
we're in.
I still believe that movie is going to be terrible.
It
I
has-
still
100%.
believe
It
it.
has the energy of when like a load of celebrities were in crypto. And you know what I mean? And they were like, oh, someone told all these celebrities at the same time that they can secure the bag with this one thing.
Sure.
So like everyone here is like, if you do this movie, it'll be huge. You'll get a lot of money. No one will care, and it'll be gone in a little while. So just do it.
I will retire and spend my time with my remaining apes.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw one tweet that's like the world's first movie forecast to make negative $100 million, you know? Because it's like that thing is guaranteed flop territory.
God. I mean, I was
Claptrap
surprised
is
they
funny.
went.
Claptrap is not funny in this movie, though, trust me. The
Claptrap-
one clip they show was Claptrap related, and you're like,
But they got
Who is-
Kevin Hart. I like
Oh, it
Kevin
was
Hart.
Kevin.
I hate to say this, Claptrap was never funny.
no, I
No.
disagree with that, okay? That is a
No.
bad take. Claptrap had his moments, okay?
Borderlands 2 is like you had to be there. That was
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
there.
I agree with you.
that shit hit, man.
It is exactly right. But no, yeah, getting back to the showcase, I think that it was good overall.
Yeah.
Definitely liked its
Just-
overall flow. It just I think it felt a little bit long. Like if it was shaved down to 90 minutes, I'd be like, cool, great. But you know, it is what it is. That's like, I feel like a fairly minor complaint in the big scheme of things. And yeah, I definitely feel like Jeff has clearly adapted to some feedback on a number of fronts. Good on him. And I think that, yeah, it was a subtle showcase, but an effective one. That's how I would describe it. So
Agreed.
yeah.
Good. That's a good,
That was cool.
good
You said
description.
it was
Thank
going to
you.
be an 8 out of 10? It's pretty there.
Yeah, I think it's like it's in that 7.5 to 8 territory.
We don't do 0.5s anymore.
No.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know that.
7.8.
I recommend the Summer Games showcase.
Yeah.
That's
There's a type.
I appreciate Jeff using the GameSpot scale.
Yeah. Remember
Use the what?
The
Use the
GameSpot scale.
GameSpot scale. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember when Fractured But Whole announced, and they in their trailer they said, "We'll do nothing less. We'll get nothing less than a 9.5 from GameSpot." And it was like, "Oh, guys, we got rid of the 0.5 scale." Sorry.
Brutal.
Well, with that, maybe we jump to Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tam and I didn't watch
Okay.
Ubisoft live
Okay.
because we were gaming. We were playing.
serious?
We were
as
playing.
one should.
We were playing Metaphor Refantasio at that time. So what were the highlights from Ubi?
Prince of Persia is a long time away.
Oh,
It's
boy.
2026 is what the reveal
2020,
said.
2026, yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say next year's GTA, so it's probably good.
Yeah, Sands of Time can take its time.
Yeah.
Feels
So
like
to
a
speak.
confirmation
Next
of
year's
the
GTA.
of
That's
the
great.
reports that that game needed to be fully restarted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like overall showcase was essentially 2 games. We're talking they opened with Star Wars Outlaws
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they closed with Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Nothing from Beyond Good and Evil then?
Don't be ridiculous,
Yeah.
Lucy, please.
Well, don't forget that they remastered it and then put it on Xbox and took it back down and then goodbye.
Doesn't mean it's ever going to come out.
I know,
It's never going to
I
happen.
know.
So, and then I think in between that, there was, some Prince of Persia updates on like, Lost Crown DLC
Yeah.
and the roguelike Prince of Persia game is getting a new biome. There's some Crew Motorfest stuff in there.
Yeah.
There was some there was some updates on their live service stuff. All their live services are getting new content. I was
Yeah.
actually
Is
in
the
the
Division
crowd.
wrapping up?
No, the Division 2 is still going.
Yeah.
No, they put out some sort of statement this
Yeah,
morning that
I-
looked like I didn't.
Oh, okay,
fully-
yeah, no, I don't know actually about that. I did see something about like final. That word stood out to me.
Yeah,
It
the
wouldn't
end.
surprise me if they were ramping down because now Massive are about to begin work on Division 3 because that team that's just finishing up on Outlaws is about to roll onto the Division 3. So that would make a lot of sense. It would make sense. But yeah, I was in the crowd actually, and everyone was like, we're in the pre-show, and different games would pop up on screen, or maybe it was actually in the main show. I think yes, Skull and Bones. That's right, in the main show, and I was in the crowd, and everyone like For Honor would come up, and we're like, yeah, For Honor, woo, and then like the crew, yeah, the crew, and, like because it's a Ubisoft crowd. But when Skull and Bones came on, everyone was just like.
Everyone's down.
Everyone's
working on their game.
This is a Ubisoft crowd full of like Ubisoft people, and even then there was like no applause. There was applause after that presentation happened, but leading into it, there wasn't like a yeah.
What's new with Just Dance? Because we went to the Ubisoft area yesterday and they had a big Just Dance there.
There was no Just Dance presentation at the Ubisoft showcase.
There were
I
no
was
dances?
devastated. They had an orchestra at the start that played an actually pretty awesome Star Wars thing that
Okay.
kind of ruled. And then they had like the Japanese drums. I don't know what they're called. I don't know. You know what they're called? Whatever. They had one of those presentations live. They had no Just Dance dances.
Damn.
Might be a
Very sad
typo.
about it. Remember what?
It might be called Taiko.
I don't know. Sure.
Taiko no Tatsujin. I feel like it's in there somewhere.
Right. I just know that from the arcades when I go to
Yep.
Japan.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was really it. But Star Wars Outlaws though, that was surprising.
Yeah.
Because we had played a build that that sort of showed a certain slice of the game, and then the showcase actually showed a lot more of it and made it look a lot more interesting and sophisticated than what we played. Because we played like a pretty, a fun, straightforward kind of, Star Warsy,
Yeah.
traversal-based shooty game, right?
Yeah.
Play all three
Yeah, I
of
played
the
all three.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I liked it, don't get me wrong. And the thing that stood out to me most was just the vibes of Star Wars were really strong.
Yes.
But that showcase really showed like, hey, there's like the way you unlock new abilities, for example, you instead of just putting points into a progression tree, you have to go out and find some person across the galaxy and like hunt them down, and then they teach you skills. And that's a cool idea.
Yeah,
Like,
it
I'm
is.
into that, you know? So there's a few little things like that really stood out to me in that showcase that made me go, huh. And I think there's always like hostility to Ubisoft titles, fair enough. There's always hostility to new Star Wars properties, fair enough. But I think pushing through a lot of that, if you don't fall into those traps, you're like, what does this game look like? Does it look fun? It looks fun, I think. And I think a lot of the commentary I'm seeing is like, yeah, that looks okay, But we'll circle back to this one later because we actually have an interview with the game director coming up as well and lead game designer. So we'll talk about that a bit more.
What did they show from Shadows?
So Jake, you saw the Shadow things. What did you think?
Yes. I'm not into it.
Okay.
No, I'm not into it at all.
Interesting. Tell us why.
I think it's so hard to not compare. It is so, but I just have been playing through Ghost of Tsushima on PC, and just seeing the combat go down in this, I'm like, oh
100%.
man, it's tough. I don't want to just like dogpile it because it's not out yet. So I'm always like going to judge things when I actually get my hands on it. But it just felt a little like it just lacked feeling. I don't know.
What are they going for in terms of combat? Like, are they going for Odyssey? Hey, you've got a sword and you can just fight anyone and it's whatever. And then they tried to go for Dark Souls fighting and stuff, which was a trip. But then I miss Assassin's Creed where you are in the shadows and you are deliberately not engaging in combat.
Yeah, I mean, so you have the larger character Yasuke, who is like a brute, which is cool in terms of player choice, but it just feels like such a even further diversion from like what makes these games interesting.
So they're doing Jacob and Evie Fry,
but like on a massively different scale where he can just bash through doors and like pick people up and like throw them and like he's big. And it's kind of cool because like they highlighted a lot of like walking through the village and everybody's like, whoa, that's a big guy. Like really cool, like interesting cultural stuff they can do with that character and like how they can expand that out. But I just look at the two playthroughs and I'm like, I want to play as the Assassin's Creed person running on rooftop. And I think that's what a lot of people had in their heads when they were like, they got to do one in feudal Japan. It'll be so cool. They picture a shinobi running on rooftops, assassinating people. So that stuff seems cool. I just feel like that character is Rizless.
Totally agree with you.
Naue?
Yeah, Naue. She feels very...
Zero Riz.
But like you can't, it's too early to say because she only had a few spoken lines. But what was there was kind of like, you got anything else? You know what I mean? I agree with you.
When they did Evie and Jacob, like I didn't really like Jacob's character, but then Evie was a little Hermione Granger coded. Like she was very much like the youngest. Oh no, was she? I can't remember. She had the energy of a younger know-it-all sibling. And I really liked that. I think it really played into the dynamic. But both of them had Riz. As the
I mean,
when they were together, there can be some interesting things there. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Ubisoft general writing / narrative stuff never really hits for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. None of that leapt out at me here either as being like, oh, this feels like it's going to have a different sort of voice. Yeah. I was very much like, this feels like it's going to be another Star Wars game.
It's also, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the main thing though, like that you're like, oh, I like the shinobi style stuff, the sneaking. And from what it showed, you can actually kind of choose who you play through the main missions with. And so if that is your preference, cool. I'm sure you're going to have to play as Yasuke at some point. And that's cool. I mean, you want to mix it up. You don't want to just play one person the entire time, I guess. But I get the vibe that if you want to play through like 60 to 70% of this game with Naue, you're going to be able to do that. That's my guess.
We were chatting to the game director on the Gamespot show on Sunday, and he said basically the same thing. Okay, right. It's just I think there'll be a point at the beginning where you definitely play as both of them to tutorialize and whatever, and then just, I don't know. It's not going to be like when they did it for Syndicate, and it was like. You can pick, but really some missions that you'll be forced into.
I do wonder if some of the dialogue stuff is the way it is because maybe they put more effort into how they interact when they're together. Because during our interview, unless I'm misremembering, they indicated that a lot of conversation, both characters are present and you can pick who you want to respond.
Oh, okay.
And they will also talk to each other. So I wonder if it's a case of like, on their own, they're kind of quite bland, but when they're together in conversations, that's where it's more interesting. So there's that possibility.
That could be complex, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It is like Ghost of Tsushima just looms so large over this. It really does because that was such a brilliant game and just really nailed that fantasy so perfectly, you know. And I think what Assassin's Creed promises to do is tell like a more sprawling saga and with, you know, different historical characters and more locations and a longer runtime and whatever else. And that's cool and all. But there was something so beautiful about how focused Ghost of Tsushima was. It was a tight 25 to 30 hours. The story,
platinum as well.
To platinum, exactly, yeah. And like the story didn't hit super hard, but it was pretty solid.
It hit me pretty hard.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, sure. But it just felt, because when I reviewed Ghost of Tsushima, I was like, my takeaway from that was kind of like, okay, this almost feels like the pinnacle of this style of game. There's nowhere else you can really take this genre at this point, you know, because it's like, this has really refined all of these elements. This Ubisoft style game has been kind of nailed here by Sucker Punch. But then Ubisoft, they have to keep coming back to do more of these. And it's where are they taking it? And what we saw was kind of like, I don't know. It didn't jump out at me as being they found that new level to really elevate the franchise. It just seems like more Assassin's Creed, which I think could be fun, by the way.
Yeah.
Sure.
People like it.
People like it, of course. But do I really look at it and think, I'm like, no, I'm just like, all right, I'll play it for a bit, I guess, and see how long it holds my interest for. You know
and
what I mean?
that's the thing. That's my fear when we were talking to him. He was like, oh, it's about the size of Origins. And I was like, do you mean in story as well? Because, dude,
Well, Origins was the more restrained one because that
It
was like
was,
your
but
40-ish hour one.
Valhalla was a piss take.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But even Odyssey was quite long, and that was sort of getting to the 50 to 60 hour mark.
Yep.
But then
Odyssey,
Valhalla just completely lost the plot. But yeah, if it is in that Origins territory, that's really good.
Yep.
However, I think we also need to remember just how successful Valhalla was.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so many people love that it's like fucking 200 hours or something to do everything in that game. Like it appeals to a certain type of completionist gamer that's just happy to do that.
Yeah.
And more power to them. Like go for it. You know what I mean? It's just not what I'm interested in at this point.
Yeah, I think I've got to the stage where I think of it as, every new Assassin's Creed could be someone else's first Assassin's Creed. So they haven't been through the journey that we have where we saw it with Altair and have watched it.
15 years ago.
Watched it evolve at every step and have been at every little turning and felt every bump in the road. So I feel like it's the way they approach it is it feels like it's ground down to us, but there's a bunch of people out there who's just going to love it. It's a franchise that they're keeping alive because they know that there's always someone that's going to think that being an assassin is cool.
Yeah. Mate, when the Witch Trials won.
That's it, man.
That's my...
If you were to like remix this and build it up again from the ground up, I'd be so into that.
That's part of my issue with this one is that it just feels very like messy because it's like they're dumping new things on top of like what was Odyssey, then what was Origins, then what was Odyssey, and then
they scaled it back from Mirage.
So it's like even like when they add things like in this, when you're Nawe, you can like technically hide in the shadows. You can throw lights, like you can break lights and sneak around. It still still feels messy. Like it just looks kind of weird. Like how in the Viking one, what's it called? Valhalla. Like they like tried to add a little social stealth back in, but it kind of just felt like this thing they dumped onto like the existing game that didn't quite mesh or gel properly.
Especially when Ivor was wearing like so much armor and it's like, oh, I'm in the shadows whenever you move.
But if it lets new people try that stuff, like if it lets people try that stuff and then be like, oh, that is cool, then maybe I'll go back, So it's a Ubisoft game where you shoot out the lights. So that's cool. I'm into that.
It's a start.
We're getting there.
Cool.
We're getting close.
One step at a time.
We're almost so back. Come on. All right, so speaking of all the Ubisoft stuff, we should definitely probably roll our interview.
Yeah.
We spoke to dudes at Massive behind Star Wars Outlaws, lead game designer Fredrik Thylander and Julian Gerighty, the creative director. So let's talk about that. But before that, a word from the sponsor.
All right, you guys keeping up with your daily AG1? You guys on that? Yes. I'm not asking for that reason, okay? I'm just looking out for you, all right? I just want you to be healthy. Please, Jake.
Thank you.
We don't get much sunlight, so we have to get the vitamin D where we can. So but no, AG1 is something that we all have. It is essentially a supplement, like it's a supplement that gives you a whole bunch of nutrients, vitamins, whatever else. I don't even know all the technical terms, but it's just something you put into your body at the start of the day. It's a really nice tasting drink that just like goes down easy. And it basically means that at the start of your day, you've actually done something good for yourself, which I really like for that. I've been using it for a few months now. I actually see in the thing here, they say that 97% of people in research study felt more energy after drinking AG1. Okay, after 30 days after drinking AG1.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel better about myself in general. I don't know about more energy is a perpetual challenge in life, but yeah, better about myself in general. I think I can agree with that for sure.
For me, it's gut health. That's definitely something. It definitely helps with that. Also, immune support. I'm someone who tends to get colds very easily, so I'm always doing whatever I can. And when I saw that AG1 offered that, I'm about it. All the things it gives you can help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the same with immune. Like I am traveling so much at the moment and it's difficult to maintain my routine and I'm on planes and I'm also working a lot. So I'm desperately trying not to get sick. And so I am making sure to keep up my AG1 every morning. It's like I can do it from my hotel room, and it just makes me feel like I've got a good start to the day. I'm doing something for myself. I'm doing something that's not just, stuffing my face full of room service.
Doritos.
Yeah.
Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Doritos are fine, by the way. We love Doritos, but we shouldn't start our day with Doritos. We should start our day with AG1.
You get a wide range of vitamins, minerals, and superfood sourced ingredients. And lately I've been doing it not in a bottle, in a shaker, but I've been classing it up and putting it in a glass. And let me tell you, that's a game changer.
Nice.
Fancy
Jake,
boy.
very nice.
I got big into smoothies as well, so I've been putting it in mine.
Oh, yeah, you can throw this thing with anything. Yeah, it's great.
That's true, yeah. So if you'd like to try it for yourself, you can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/friends. That's the unique link for us. That's drinkag1.com/friends. Check it out, and thank you to AG1 for sponsoring the video.
Thank you guys both for joining us. For context, if you are listening, watching at home, we're recording this right after the Ubisoft Forward on the Monday of Playdays, Key 3, Summer Game Fest, whatever you want to call it. How are you feeling?
I mean, great at this point. Like that was fun.
That was fun for you sitting in the audience. No, that's great, Fredrik.
Well, you were performing.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good.
So it was. It's relief. It's always relief when you step off stage and you're trying to talk to the audience, but the audience is online as well. And if you stop and think about that, it gets really scary. So I'm just happy it's past, and I'm happy the assets are out there, the trailers are out there. Yeah. Genuinely proud of the work that the team has done. So feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and I was talking to the team at home, and they were watching on the projector in the studio. And
what time is it in Sweden right now?
What
time is it in Sweden right now?
It was 9:30.
Okay, that's all right.
Not for my daughter. She was up late.
We have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to watch these things in Australia. So you guys are doing all right.
Oh, yeah, I'm suffering.
Sorry to the Australians there.
That's right, exactly.
I mean, look, we're at this point now. It's, sorry to say it because I'm sure you're under a lot of pressure, but it's not that long until launch. But let's go back to the beginning of the project. Obviously massive, well known for The Division. How did a Star Wars project end up on your laps?
So it's actually, the origin is the day that I presented Division 2 for Ubisoft on stage in Los Angeles in 2018. David Polfeld, who was the MD of Massive at the time, was in the cafe in front of the Orpheum talking to Disney and negotiating, well, perhaps this team could be good fit for Disney in general. And a lot of different IPs were evoked. Even Frozen was evoked.
I would love for the people who made The Division, their follow-up game be a Frozen game.
Much to his daughter's chagrin that didn't happen.
No, we had to let it go.
Oh, God.
You
So, but Frozen was mentioned as a possibility. Donald Duck was mentioned as a possibility.
So they're trying to get you to make Kingdom Hearts?
Oh, I don't think so.
I would love to work on that.
Yeah. I don't think so. But behind all the nice discussions, David really wanted to work on Star Wars. And it took a while for that to happen. It took a while for it to be signed. But 2 years later, after delivering the sort of blueprint for Warlords of New York on Division 2, myself and a couple of other people split off, same studio, working in a room, just amongst a few veteran developers on Division 2. And we came up with a pitch. And the week before COVID locked us down worldwide, we were in San Francisco and we pitched Open World Scoundrel. And that's the first step.
Yeah. And my mind was blown when I got to join the team, which was that year, and you presented what it was going to be. I was so in.
Can you remember the presentation called Blip?
Blip, that's what we called it.
So I called it Blip, and I hid it in my files. And somebody went looking for it and had to have a talking to, because it was just concept art, but it was there.
Why were people looking around your files? Well, what's the deal with that?
The last thing I expect is people to look on my PC for stuff.
Yeah, right. So, and when you pitched the Scoundrel, actually, I was interested in that. Why Scoundrel? Like what? Because I mean, obviously, a lot of Star Wars games are focused on the Jedi thing. Was it a case of like, if that was wide open, or like, what was it about the Scoundrel thing that made you guys go, I want to do that?
So there were two things that triggered that. The first one is that the very first presentation, there was this idea of going through a lot of different gameplay styles. Gunplay, but also smuggling, but also this, all of the sort of spectrum of possible gameplay in a Star Wars setting. And the second was when we started talking about what really excited us about Star Wars, what really ignited our passions. We started thinking about what characters,
who do you want to be?
Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And without a doubt, when I was a kid, Han Solo was the coolest guy in the galaxy, and he was in his surfer van with his dog, and it was perfect.
That is actually what he is.
It was just okay. The farm boy, fantastic, amazing. The rebel general princess, incredible. Darth Vader, so iconic. But come on. A guy and his dog.
Sure. But there's also this whole thing of just getting to live in Star Wars. And like, if you're off saving the galaxy and like fighting the pinnacle fights, you're not really living in it. But if you're just a guy in a cantina or a girl in the cantina, in our case, like you're chilling, you're feeling the mood, you're networking, you're doing all of these things. So that fantasy is strong, right? Like just to get to be in that world without this high pressure, defeat the ultimate bad guy.
The huge stakes, right?
Yeah, the huge stakes.
As someone who doesn't understand how this works, or like working with established IP, how do you decide on things like Kijimi? You're in Kijimi, right? Is that something that you guys are just like, what if we did more of that planet? Or is it a collaboration with Disney? Like, how does that process work?
100% a collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. It's sketching out where we'd like to go, where it makes sense for a Scoundrel or an Outlaw adventure to make sense. All of these places are hives of scum and villainy. So it's more, okay, what makes sense? What are the touch points, and where do we want to go that creates that variety? Not just the visual variety, but the gameplay variety that we're looking for. So it's back and forth. There is, some places that we wanted to go and they were like, can't do that because another game's doing that, or can't do that because it's being used in another media.
Property, or the situation in that particular era, isn't conducive to playing there as a Scoundrel. But because that's the other thing, getting to work on all of these syndicates and like where they are and operate, that factors into it, because we really wanted the syndicates and how you relate to them to be a huge part of it.
Yeah. So it's an open world game. You guys describe it as the first open world Star Wars game. Obviously, there's like the Jedi, the Respawn Star Wars games, which are also open world in their own way. So do you see a difference in the way that you define open world games such that you call this the first truly open world Star Wars game?
I think a truly living world where you can just go around and explore and see things happening, and where like traversal and getting around and finding various places is not done to this extent before, right? We, Ubisoft is good at making open world games, and we felt like we could leverage everything we'd worked on before and our knowledge on how to make a really engaging world. Calling it the first, yes, there's open levels and open parts of Jedi, and I love Jedi Survivor and Lego games as well, but. There's something about creating a world you can immerse yourself in that I think we pulled off.
Yep. Sure. And speaking of other games, like were there other games that were points of inspiration to you as you were developing this? Because there's lots of different gameplay styles. There's been a lot of Star Wars games over the years. Like were there particular ones that you really clung to in development? So
there is one game that was top of mind for me going into this, and that it's an unusual reply maybe, but Ghost of Tsushima
Okay.
did a fancy in such a pure way, in such a beautiful way, where the world, the characters were really ingrained in what you had to do in the player fancy.
Yeah.
That it was at least my major touchstone going into the conception of this.
Okay, that's really interesting. I would have thought it'd be like Shadows of the Empire. And I'd be like, yeah, sick,
Well,
nice.
I'm old enough where like some of the gunplay and stuff like that certainly has like dark forces inspirations to
definitely,
them,
definitely.
but I'm old school that way. But
That's so fascinating. So you saw the purity of Ghost of Tsushima's sort of voice and delivery as one of the starting points for how you were approaching this.
The player fancy. It's okay, you're going to be a samurai who has this ninja side to him, a ghost side to him. And just the purity of how it was delivered and how it's the red thread with everything in the game, that's super inspirational. So open world as well. But every person on the team, I guarantee you, brought a different inspiration.
something into it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we have space gameplay and we have reference games there, and we have people who've worked on other space games who brought their expertise in. And our Bucharest studio used to work on Blazing Angels and stuff, so they know flights.
And Hawks.
And Hawks,
of course.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
With so many different aspects to the game, everyone brings little pieces of it. It's but it all starts with just, what do you want to do as a scoundrel? Like,
Absolutely.
what are the things you want to do? Well, I want to shoot from the hip, and I want to drive a speeder, and I fly a
gamble.
spaceship and gamble.
There's a lot of
It's
gambling
not
in this
gambling.
game. I
It's
played
playing sabacc.
in the slice that I played. There was a lot of gambling. I know you're not allowed to call it
No, I saw
gambling,
that.
but it's gambling.
So it's
Playing
playing cards
of course,
Yeah,
no,
thank
of
you.
course.
with certain rewards attached to a winning
Of course.
condition.
Progression
Absolutely.
mechanics.
Perhaps
Yes.
some losses. Who can say?
That's right.
Well, I mean, how do you? So if you have the idea of what you want the game to be. It's open world. You're saying you have all these people bringing all of these things. How do you know, as designers and creatives, when it's too much and how to rein it in and how to really distill that experience?
So one thing that's super important to me as a creative and on pretty much every game that I've worked on is to set an extremely clear creative framework for people to be able to express themselves in. And the scope needs to be extremely precise at the beginning of the project. So at Ubisoft, we have a stage gate process, which is big meetings, big milestones with head office where we present what we want to do and present the progress. And the kickoff meeting, which is that first meeting where you put the imagination of what the final product is going to be, that's incredibly close to what we delivered. There are one or two things that we didn't do. One or two things that we did do even more. For example, the sabacc, the mini games, that type of thing that we've added into the mix. But the framework is very clear. And our jobs as leadership or creative leadership on the project is to make sure that we're all going in the right direction, in the same direction.
This is a project that stayed remarkably on target throughout. And I think it goes back to everyone just wants to make that scoundrel experience. So everyone knows what it is and what they want to put in there, because it's a cohesive, understandable thing, I think.
So Massive's DNA, love how you guys build worlds, love how you engage players in those worlds. But this is a different thing for you guys. And I look at other Ubisoft stuff. Ubisoft games are famous for keeping players very busy in open worlds with a lot of things to do. So how do you guys approach that? I feel like you guys think about things a little differently.
It's also very different to what we've done before, because this is a narrative-led adventure with a clear arc, right? We wanted to take you on a journey as Kay and Nyx, and so it's very different. We're not really looking to keep you in those types of loops. We're telling effective stories and effective side stories. That was what we were challenging ourselves to do this time, which is, to some degree, a little new to us. It was really exciting to get to do a narrative-led game. And so that's changed a little bit how we approach building the open world as well, because every place in the world needs to tell a story. We have some amazing world artists and quest designers that just get to dig into a place and think about what's been there and what you should understand about it when you just get there once and never maybe go there again. So But then again, on the other side, when you have a big open world, you end up filling it with stuff to explore and find. So it's there, but it's not the purpose of the game. The purpose of the game is an effective story.
Interesting. And Kay is interesting because I've only seen so much of the game. Can't quite put my finger on her yet. Where are you pulling from? Other than her being a scoundrel, what are your inspirations for her?
You've got a lot of scoundrels in Star Wars that are amazing, but they're all unbelievably cool. They're all almost perfect. Tough competition. But what we were trying to do is to bring some sort of relatability as well, a little bit more relatable compared to a Han Solo, who is just, it's Harrison Ford. It's perfection. So having those things, having a humanity there and a strong, clear drive is something that really we wanted to put in the front and center of that. And I think I mentioned it yesterday, but one of the inspirations for the narrative, because this is a character who keeps falling into really tricky situations by accident almost. And one of the inspirations is a Martin Scorsese movie called After Hours with Griffin Dunne. Have you seen it?
I know of it though. Yeah.
Deep cut.
You have to watch it because it's a comedy movie, but it's a black comedy. So there's just this character one night in New York who just crosses the most incredible characters in the most incredible situations. So having a rookie thief who finds themselves tangling with some of the biggest criminal syndicates in the galaxy, for me, that's a story that's new, that's fresh, and that's worth telling within Star Wars.
But it also works if you're completely new to Star Wars, because you get to go along on her journey of like getting out there in that galaxy and experiencing all of this for the first time, right? So it works for that too.
I think, so we've all played it now, right? We played a demo that sort of had 3 slices, a bit of space flight, a bit of like exploring a power reactor that was powered down and turn it back on. Another one where you were doing like a heist kind of thing, had to steal an artifact or whatever. And I think from what we played, it felt kind of like a very well-made third-person action game, right? Like many that we've experienced before. But interestingly, the showcase that we just had then showed a lot more stuff that we didn't get to experience at all. And it seems like there's a lot of sort of systemic depth going on under the surface, or, we haven't seen it yet. So, I mean, could you talk to us about some of the more interesting systemic elements that you think really stand out and make this more than just a straight up 3D action game?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously the demo is made for this context where you have to have a curated amount of time where you get through an experience. So we couldn't.
Also, we're closing. And our producer was like, you get one demo.
I wasn't complaining about the demo, mind you. I was just like,
you take this demo around the world, but you're not bothering us for another demo. So we had to make some clear choices, mostly driven by consumer shows where we have to limit people in time for hands-on. So that's the decision process behind the demo.
For sure. It makes total sense.
But on the systemic side as well, like it's not just an open world, it's an open kind of, like you get to travel around between these different planets. So like getting your new equipment and your new upgrade and learning new things from experts can happen a little out of order based on like what you come across and what you are driven towards. So if you want to upgrade your blaster, you might need to find that right expert to do that. And, we have some interaction tools where you might need a particular thing to break through a wall or to power up equipment. And, I think we saw in the trailer today, like taking down droids with a shock prod. And that's something you don't have from the beginning. So there's a lot of cases where you'll come across, obstacles or difficulties and go, oh, I wish I had something to deal with that. So, I hesitate to use the tired Metroidvania to invoke that. But certainly seeing things and being driven to figure out how to solve them and make life easier for yourself is a big part of it. And the fact that you get to travel around and search for those things is great.
Yeah. What about reputation stuff? Because I noticed there's a reputation system. Could you give us an example of like maxing out a reputation and the kind of rewards that you get versus like bottoming out a reputation and like how things can go
Right.
when it's
Yeah.
like very negative.
It's one of those things where there's a lot of detail and depth that has never been shown. So there's one city that you landed in if you played the false flag demo that's called Miragana. It's in Toshara. And in Miragana, you've got several areas that are faction strongholds, territory, if you will. If you try and go in there with a terrible reputation, you're going to be kicked out. But if you can get access, and you can sneak in, but not be seen, not be caught, or you can get good enough reputation, you get access to better vendors, exclusive items, and all the way, excellent reputation, you'll unlock exclusive contracts, so missions, exclusive missions, vanity with gear, stats linked to them. So there's a real motivation to be on the good side of the different syndicates. Most missions have a dilemma for players to choose. Not at their heart, maybe, but around the quest. So if you're sent to steal something for the Crimson Dawn, somebody will pop up and say, hey, do you want to sell that to the Hutts? And that's mutually exclusive decisions on your reputation. If your reputation gets terrible with a faction, they're going to send people after you. So it really is that spinning plate thing.
Sure.
And I'm sure that people are going to try and get terrible reputation all around. And it's going to be your personal story through the underworld of Star Wars.
Does that manifest in multiple endings for the game?
No, it's one linear narrative arc, but with reputation being basically your crafted story.
But there's jobs you can do for the syndicates if you're in good standing with them. So you got to get in with them if you want to do some of the contracts and jobs for them, for sure.
Can you be in excellent standing with all of them? I just don't ever want to annoy people.
We're balancing it at the moment.
I was going to say, because it feels like you can't, in that kind of galaxy, you can't be friends with
everyone. It was possible.
Yeah, it was.
But I don't think we're going to make it easy.
Okay.
All right. I think
You
it
can't
should
please
be
everyone.
really tough.
And the mainline narrative, like you say, will put you in situations where you're going to have to make tough choices. So that's gonna make it so that doesn't.
If we
work
do our
anyway.
jobs right, it's going to be a really tough ride.
For me, the people pleaser.
Oh no!
So one thing that has caused players some frustration in the lead into this is the approach to content. And correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but I'm of the understanding that there's at least one or two missions in the main game that are kind of paywalled behind also owning the season pass, which will eventually give you additional content, of course, right? So first of all, could you clarify what that is? And secondly, could you talk about why that decision was made? And thirdly, could you explain could that change before launch? Those are the three sort of questions.
Got you. So you have to remember that there are many people who are behind decisions like this.
Sure.
I think one of the approaches, and working very closely with Mike, we wanted to make the season pass something that was so appealing, so packed with content that it was a no-brainer to go for. And of course, that's going to be the DLCs that are going to be packaged with it, some vanity elements there too. And we were asked, okay, would you have something exclusive day one that people can play? And we chose a quest, Jabba's Favor, I think it's called, which understandably caused a little bit of confusion when it was announced. But it is like an extra incentive for that season pass. And I know games are expensive, but we really do want to make that season pass as attractive as possible.
Okay. Is there any chance that this decision might be revisited before launch?
I don't think so. I think that'll be something that has already been done, already been baked in. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, you still meet Jabba, you still work for him, everyone gets to experience that. Yeah, of course. This is just an additional quest.
Jabba is part of the criminal syndicates that you'll be working for or against. So he's a much, much bigger part of the game than just this quest.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering the question.
With that, how are you feeling about Outlaws? Is this, are you guys thinking of maybe spinning this off into another thing? Is that the hopes? Or are you happy to go back to some other different types of games? Like, how are you looking at the future?
So give us a chance to finish Outlaws.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Gotta go back and
I think
ship it first.
We've got a couple of months that are going to be fairly hard focus to make sure that the game is as good as it can be. It's really important for us to ship something that lives up to our expectations and the expectations of people who are going to pre-order it or play it, right? So that's the first step. Hopefully, we'll get to investigate what we can do with Lucasfilm Games. I don't know. It's way above my pay grade. This said, I can say that I'm going to be moving on to something else afterwards. So that's been announced already. And so I know that Massive is going to be very busy.
I mean, as for me, I'm going to be really excited to do the DLC on the season pass. We got some pretty exciting stuff that we're going to put in there that we can't talk about today, but I'm pretty hyped for working on that after we ship.
Yeah, right. Speaking of Julian, your next thing, that's already been announced as being the
by
division.
fax. It was like old school.
That's right. It's how they do it in Japan.
Yeah,
They still use the fax machine.
1999
That's right.
style announcement.
So,
Division 3. So that's going to be the next.
So how do you feel about stepping back into that franchise after a very long spell away from it?
I adore the Division.
Sure.
I think for me, it's one of my comfort food games. It's that mixture of world, beautiful world, mechanics, social, all intertwined into one. Can't wait. I mean, Star Wars was amazing. And we talked a little bit about the choice of Star Wars and building on the strengths of Massive as a studio, but also pushing us a little bit in directions that we're not comfortable
Learning
in.
new things.
Learning new things. That's really important for us. So coming back to Division, so excited to jump back in.
Nice. And so what? It was how long you reckon till it releases? Are we talking like?
Oh my gosh!
Are we talking 2 to 3 years?
Several months.
3. Nice, excellent, love it.
To be honest, we're starting to think about this. I don't think that we can make games the same way we used to make games.
Really?
So I think we need to spend some time in pre-production to really examine. Okay, what is a sustainable future for this type of experience?
Would that potentially manifest in something like an early access release for something like The Division?
I would adore exploring those things. Again, lots of people above my pay grade,
sure.
But I think there's so many really interesting things happening on PC, especially, that are really exciting for developers and players.
Even seeing the Rogue Prince of Persia going into early access now,
because that was Yubi's first early access title.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you both. It's been lovely talking to you.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And best of luck with the rest of development.
Thank you.
Cool.
Should we say like may the force be?
We already did that terrible joke at the start. We don't need to. Okay.
We have to bookend it.
That's right. Nice.
And we're back.
All right.
Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, that was good.
I love it.
That felt
good.
My throat's a little tired. I can't do it.
Sure,
and
sure.
we're back. No. Yeah, so that was a insightful conversation.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the big question?
Yeah.
The Jabba in the room.
Yeah, it is.
What?
Jabba in the room. Yeah, like so.
This is the Jabba the Hutt mission, and then the elephant in the room.
Oh, I heard like jabber. Like, sorry, sorry. I
the
was like,
jabbering in the room.
Yeah, we obviously wanted to ask that question about the pre-order stuff because that's like the main point of. There's when people talk about this game, I put up a video, for example, for Star Wars Outlaws, being like, "Hey, this is a pretty cool Star Wars game. I like it." And everyone's like, "Don't buy this video game. It sucks. It sucks." And to be perfectly honest, I get it. Like I spoke about it on my news show as well, because from just revisiting, in case you skipped the interview, what Ubisoft did was they said, if you buy the season pass, you get additional content in the main game
On day one.
And that's shitty. Like it is shitty. You know what I mean? And the reality is though, and we wanted to ask that question, but the reality is the guys that we were sitting with, they don't make those calls. And that's exactly what Julian said. Like he's a creative director and Julian and the other guy, Fredrik, he's a game designer. They're not the ones that come in and be like, yeah, we're going to do this shit. You know what I mean? So at the same time, yeah, not a great answer. You know what I mean? Like, it's just unfortunate that is how that goes.
It's also kind of the realities of how expensive AAA game development is, because he kept saying like, have to make the season pass. What was the word he used?
We want you
As
to buy
attractive
it,
as
like-
possible.
Yeah,
It's
as
like we
attractive
want
as
your
possible,
money.
we
You know what
want
I
you
mean?
to buy it.
But
So
I
it's
don't
like-
think that is. Yeah, sure, go on.
But it's like, you know, that's like we said, he's the creative team. They're not making those decisions, but it feels, you know.
I feel like if you want us to buy the season pass, you should make the season pass really good. You shouldn't paywall content behind the main game to make us want to buy the season pass. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. It's shitty things like that kind of really poison the well about this sort of thing. Because, you know, if without that move, I think there'd be a lot more positive sentiment towards this game.
Yeah.
But it really has pissed people off a lot. And fair enough. And I actually said in my original coverage of that story, I'm like, don't forget, these games eventually go on discount. And so maybe you don't want to buy this at launch because you don't want to support that sort of thing. Or maybe you don't want to buy it at all. And that's totally fair. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of things that we also grapple with how we talk about games and how we interface with game makers. You know what I mean? Because again, they're not the ones that have to... It sucks because they're not the ones that make these decisions, but they're the ones that actually have to defend them publicly in moments like this.
Interesting,
It's the
yeah.
executives.
Yeah.
It's actually like the executives. Like if we could sit down with them, at that point we'd be like, okay, well, tell us why you did that. That fucking sucks, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But all this guy can do is be like, well, here's this situation. We did what we could do and that's it. And he gave an honest answer, by the way. Like
Yeah.
he could have sidestepped that and been like, well, you know, but he
Even if
told
we-
us the truth.
Yeah.
He told us the truth, which is like, we want your money. You know what I mean? But it's not him per se. It is Ubisoft executives, monetization people who are like, how do we structure this so people feel compelled to buy this stuff? You know what I mean?
I mean,
So-
God, remember like back in the days of EA, BioWare's, like the
Online
online
pass.
All that shit, you know what I
like
mean?
all
Yeah.
that bullshit.
And it's like I felt like we got past that.
We
It felt-
did.
That's why it's
Yeah.
very rare for a game like this
on disc
to get that.
DLC.
to
Yeah.
do this these days. And that's
Yeah.
why it got so much play in the news, because it's like, why are you doing this? It's such a needless own goal. And that's also why I asked, is there any chance you can revisit this? Because people saw, like they would have seen the backlash to this and how much negative sentiment it created.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, maybe just don't do this. Just take the PR win by saying, we've changed our minds and we're
We
not doing that
hear
anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, there
So-
is another player involved in this, and that's Disney. And
Yeah.
like, it's easy to say like Ubisoft execs did. They definitely did, but we also need to be aware of the fact that Disney execs probably got involved in this stuff as well.
I
to a
suspect,
degree.
and this is a guess, but I suspect Disney executives are like, just give me my money. Whereas Ubisoft need to think about how to
How
get
do we
that
get
money.
that
You know
money?
what I mean? And so this is what they came
so
up
in terms of like the partnership will probably be what defines the way. And the reason why people, like you just said, is it's a very like 10 years ago move. To
Yeah,
be like, why
absolutely.
is this like this?
Yeah,
and,
that's
Yeah,
a good
and
point.
the only thing I think of is like it's what the only way they can think of to adhere to whatever agreement that they have going on
Sure.
to make that kind of thing and make sure this is a success. And again, the people you guys spoke to, not the people to make those decisions, and
Yeah.
difficult to ask them. But I think the thing that you said where they have to defend them publicly is correct, and also kind of sucks in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
The other thing too is I think about something like this, such a big IP, that it's like there's the mainstream Star Wars fans buying this that aren't in that discourse.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like they're like, oh, just steamroll the nerds who are like complaining about it. And eventually,
But at the same time, Star Wars has that power to act as a bit of a lightning rod that can attract attention in unwanted ways.
That's
Like
true.
with Battlefront 2, for
Yeah,
example.
that
When,
got
when you mess
mainstream.
with Star Wars,
Yeah.
people take note, you know,
That's
and
true.
this isn't the same thing because it's much more like, this is a very complex kind of thing where most people wouldn't even know that this is like this, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas the loot box stuff, everyone could see it because it was so front and center of the core game design,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I don't know. It is a bummer. Very glad that we got the chance to speak with those guys.
Yeah.
As I said, I enjoyed the game personally.
Yeah, me too.
But you know, at the same time, we wanted to ask that question. We wanted to have this discussion because it's a real thing with regards to this game. And as always, it's like, think about how you want to spend your money. If you want to buy this game on day one, fair enough. All power to you. If you want to buy this at a discount later on, sure. You never want to buy it, yeah, it makes sense, you know. But at least we had that conversation and we, you know, could put this question in that way so that you can make an informed purchase. And I feel like that's what our job is at all times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to kind of like put it out there and let everyone else make up their own minds. So, yeah.
I think so.
well, with that, we should move on over to the next big showcase thing. and that was Xbox.
Next box.
Next box. We got to see the next. We didn't get to see the next. Well, we did
We
get to
did
see
get
the
to
next
see
box.
hardware refresh.
It was
Yes.
adorably all digital. Did you note? Do you remember how that when they did the leak?
Is that what it said in the
back in the leak?
adorably all
it said it was
digital?
adorably all digital. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
There's nothing adorable about all digital.
Do you think that the next Xbox when it arrives will be all digital?
What is
Like
in the
next
one?
gen Xbox,
Oh,
next gen Xbox.
I mean,
I don't know. Sarah Bond said, "Oh, it's our commitment to game preservation, and
And
then
for our first act,
all digital."
all digital
it's
console.
it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like it
That's
doesn't.
so
yeah.
good.
Yeah, unless it comes with a little disk drive to plug in.
Which, I
Maybe.
don't hate that idea. As long as you are committed to making that
Given the
disk
option.
drive and you are committed to releasing the game, sure. But the problem is, they're not committed to releasing physical games. Look at Tango, with Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Never got a physical release.
And we don't know what their
That's nice.
strategy is for.
Yeah.
But
So
not through Xbox, but
Sorry,
through
you're right.
limited run.
You're
I
right,
remember.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Through limited run. Xbox
Yeah.
themselves never put out a physical release.
PlayStation did it.
Hellblade didn't.
That's right. PlayStation did what?
Yeah, they got that detachable disk drive.
Correct,
In the new
exactly.
model.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
That's cool.
something.
I like that.
And PlayStation have never done an all digital release for a first party title, have they? I feel like that can't be true. I feel like there's probably some little game they put out at some point. But
The PlayStation Mini was all digital, right? But you could only get 10 games on
Yeah,
that, right?
I can't think of
That
a
was-
current generation.
neither
that
can
was
I. I think
pure
they've all
digital.
been physical
Yeah.
as well, which is
Yeah.
good.
But
Keep
you
up,
could get
Sony.
an all digital PS5, but the same model.
Sure. But I'm just saying in terms of their first party release.
right.
The first party releases.
Oh,
that's what I
sorry,
mean. Yeah.
sorry.
Whether they put out anything that's all digital, I don't think so.
No.
Lost Legacy was on disc.
Well, at least with Xbox, there's a lot to talk about. A lot of
Yeah.
games. We got
Yeah.
glimpses. For me, I liked getting some glimpses of things that have been in the works for so long. I feel like on this podcast, when we talk about the last couple episodes, well, what's Xbox doing? What's going on? I kept saying well, where is State of Decay 3? We got to see State of Decay 3.
Did you though, Jake?
Let's see a trailer.
Did
It's
you?
sort of a little
Sort
bit,
of.
Did you?
but not really.
Did you see anything?
I saw some third person shooting snippets in there. I'm glad the game still exists, honestly. That's it. But yeah, what stood out to you guys besides the big one? We'll
check
save the last game for last,
Sure.
in my opinion.
Do we want to talk about Dragon Age at this point? Because it had pretty. We saw an hour of it. We could talk about that
Actually,
more.
I would love to hear about it. Let's do that now because it's fun.
Because I'm so removed from. I loved the first Dragon Age,
Sure.
and I have ollied out ever since. So
Oh wait, so you haven't played Inquisition?
I think I played for a little bit, and bounced off of it.
Right.
Okay. Big Dragon Age fans. We've actually seen the couch has seen the first hour of Dragon Age.
So you saw it as well?
No.
Oh, I
okay.
thought you did. Oh,
No, I
sorry.
didn't get
well,
to
Tam
swing
and I
it.
have.
Please, tell me.
We've seen the first hour of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. We had the game director walk us through. She was playing and talking to us about it, and we saw the entire prologue. I'm a big Dragon Age fan. Tam's a big Dragon Age fan. We saw that trailer. And they have committed the cardinal sin of using a slow down version of a song.
Gotta stop that.
What song was it?
It was
Wicked
Heroes,
Heroes.
by David
Someone
Bowie.
pointed out that Dragon Age's reveal trailers have done this consistently.
Yeah, so maybe it's just
they pick bad music for their trailers. Someone went back to Origins and showed it, and it was like, yeah, that sucks.
But so it's one of those things where it's I've said this I think 5 times on multiple different podcasts now. Dragon Age is in a tough spot. It's been away for 10 years. The last game ended on a massive cliffhanger. Read up on it yourself, but it's to do with Solus. It's to do with Solus. And so when the game was announced and it was called Dreadwolf, that made all the sense in the world because he's now the main antagonist. And then they were like, oh no, we're changing the name to the Veilguard and it's going to be all about the companions. And that, to me, as someone who's a big Dragon Age and BioWare fan in general, is very exciting because I think the strongest part of those games is the companions. And I think when it came to Inquisition, it was at least a less balanced roster in terms of who I really liked versus who I would not engage with at all. So I'm very excited to see that this is a whole new cast, except for there's 1 or 2 returning. So I'm interested to see who kind of comes back and stuff. My main takeaway from Dragon Age is it was a really strong opening because with all that stuff that I said about how difficult that job is, they started with a prologue that sets up the new character, which is Rook. It's not Inquisitor, it's not the Warden, it's not Hawk or anything. And then introduces you to a couple and then basically sets the stakes on the table. And the stakes are, Solus is going to rip apart a rift between worlds essentially and basically destroy and kill everyone by letting out all the demons and all the old elven gods. So it does this really bombastic opening. It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing that
Really?
everyone
Yeah.
is saying, so it starts you off in Minrathous, and there's also they were saying stuff, and obviously like it's a presentation, they're trying to get information out to you, so they're kind of going, oh, there'll be more biomes than ever before. You get to go to places in Theta that you've never been to before. They started out in possibly one of the most eye-catching places that they absolutely could have, which is it's like the kind of the seat of all magic. And a
Yes.
lot of magic users are here.
Capital C of the Tevinter.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
And everything was just like when you go back to older RPGs and the world feels lifeless and like the people couldn't actually live there. It was really cool watching the characters like walk through and just seeing like reaction to pride demons or whatever coming through the veil. It looked like it had a really eye-catching art style. So I think the trailer not misrepresented the art style a little bit, but it was a very, very stylized trailer.
Yeah, because there's a lot of post effects applied to that visual
Yes.
design in that trailer.
It was just this purple flashy thing. There's like so much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, it's similar, but the execution is way more detailed.
Right.
Yeah,
And like,
considered
because
in
that
there.
looks, because like the way it was presented in the trailer didn't look immersive. It looked
Right.
No, yeah,
flashy.
yeah.
It looked like a Fortnite
Right.
kind of thing,
And that's
right?
what that was.
The
But
si- sorry, go ahead.
no, when you get to the actual game itself, because one of the things, like all of the Dragon Age games look very different. And then one thing that I really loved in Inquisition is they went all in on the kind of tarot card style things with like all of the all the characters had them. And then they're in the lore as like, oh, these are murals that Solus left kind of thing. And so like they tied it in. It was like a flashy thing that was in menus and everything, but there was also in the world. And they're still doing that in Inquisition, in the Veilguard even. But it was like, it's a very, I keep saying eye-catching, but it's just, I just really enjoy the art design.
Yeah.
So is there any parallel, like another game that...
So
Mass Effect 2.
okay.
In terms of art.
No,
I mean,
in terms of art. In terms of art.
no, I the way I think of it is, so my impressions of it, just to kind of like pick up on some of what Lucy said, is they were very confident in what they showed us, confidently delivered it as well. And I think that the slice that we saw, it warranted that confidence. The way it looked, the best way I can describe it is, imagine the visual noise or the intentional visual noise of Cyberpunk, but swap the technology for magic.
Okay.
And it's that kind of like
Yeah,
the
that's a
signs.
really
good way
the
of saying
signs are like made of magic, and you can see it like instead of like blinking like technology lights would, it's like pulsing and waving and that kind of stuff.
And it was raining at
And
the
it was
same
raining,
time,
and it has a lot of
going
that.
through puddles.
It has a lot of that vibrancy of that, and then they reinforce it by basically making a major destructive event happen. So then you start to see it go to shit. And they described it as, we wanted the opening prologue to feel like the end of a previous game, like the conclusion, like the stakes are on the line moment. And that's what it was. It was like everything immediately popping off. And the kind of way they executed it, they showed off all the magic style, and it was a good opportunity for them to walk through the foundational stuff of it. And it's that same stuff, that stop and strategize style, but that is kind of like overlaid with the active playing and attacking like it's an action game, and then mixing back and forth between them. There was the conversational stuff was in there. And again, our director of the game was that confident enough, like that when a key moment happened, instead of just saying, would you like this or that? Just sat quietly and then waited. And then someone went, please do this one. And it was like, okay, yeah, they get it. And it looked really, really, really impressive. You go to I think they transitioned to another area as well through the mirror.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
so there's like a big set piece moment that happens. And we're not going to say what happens. It also ends in a way that all of us gasped in the room.
Yeah.
And that's not like, it was a story event that happened that we were like, oh my God. So that is the kind of thing that ticks every BioWare box, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And again, has to be said, don't know what happens beyond this prologue.
Yeah.
Like to the point where I went in with such low expectations. I've told you this many times. You've heard me say it. It looks suspiciously good. Like that's where I'm at. And I'm a cynical person now, I guess, at this point. I'm braced for it to just fall off a cliff the moment you get out of there. But if that game keeps the quality of what we saw visually and in terms of what it offers gameplay wise and narratively, they might be pulling off some BioWare is back, baby.
So if you don't mind me asking, like, how does it play? Is it like Inquisition?
So it's kind of, yes. So there's Inquisition was way more like action, like oriented. The main thing that they were because also it's at the very beginning of the game, so like didn't really have.
That's tough, yeah.
And I think in the gameplay the gameplay reveal that they posted publicly, because they didn't post obviously the whole hour that we saw, they posted some like a gameplay overview or something. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I did see a screenshot going around of like a more filled out power wheel.
Yeah.
So also what they were saying is they really want to encourage like if you use tactical, which is, you know, hold down the power wheel and like you can tell your companion to do this thing and then this thing.
So
and
you can
do one
pause.
thing. You can do the pause stuff again, which is how I love to play. And the reason when you said earlier, what's it like? I was like, oh, Mass Effect 2. But I mean that purely in that way because that was, for me, the pinnacle way of controlling my companions and strategizing. And they were saying that like they're really trying to encourage not team up moves, but, you know, like if you use one ability and immediately follow up or get, you know, warp singularity from Mass Effect 2. Warp detonation. But like it was... And this is where it's difficult to comment because we weren't the ones controlling it and don't know how it feels yet. Yeah. But there were, so you could be like various different kinds of mage, a mage, warrior, and basically your rogue.
Subclasses, effectively.
And then subclasses. And then there was also, you know, you're getting into the deeper RPG part of things where it's like you have your backstory, which impacts how people talk to you, relationship-wise. Again, at the very beginning, I don't know how deep it's going to go, but I imagine it will go pretty deep. But it's like, you know, we're having a conversation and Varric and Lead Scout Harding are talking about a plan. And you say something and it goes, oh, Varric approves, Harding disapproves. But there are things in it that have definitely, you can see that they've taken on criticisms from the past games, like everyone is romanceable regardless of gender.
I appreciate it. Finally.
Yeah, and apparently there are some instances where if you don't romance them, they will
romance
someone else in the team. You know?
Nice. That's interesting.
Yeah, which is something that happened in Mass Effect 3. Which I did accidentally. Garrus and Tally ended up after I accidentally slept with someone in the shower. Anyway.
Yeah. Some of the other. Oh, sorry.
No, then the other thing is, it's like. The conversation wheel also, like in Inquisition, it kind of tells you, you know, oh, this is the nice way. This is the thing. There was one where it was Varric noticed that you like to be non-confrontational or something. Like there was a little pop-up of that. So it wasn't even just like approve, disapprove. It was like noticing specific things about how you reacted.
I don't want the game to react to how I am. That's my problem.
Yeah, it's that element of like you can say something bad or good, but your companions will just stand there and let it happen. I think this is a case where potentially they could have your companions learn the way you behave and either understand what you're trying to do or be like, I don't like the way you do this anymore. And they'll be like, I'm out of here, or like interrupt or something like that. I'm not saying that's what's happening. They show that.
Potential.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's interesting.
Could be.
Be like, Varric noticed you're a little bitch.
Yeah.
Damn, I was hoping you wouldn't realize that so early in the game.
The other stuff is really cool is like they talked about the range-based stuff. Every character has a range-based attack, so you never feel like you're a mage and you're just sitting at the back whipping stuff. Yeah,
because I think it was like you press something on the D-pad and then there was you got basically like this dagger that would just put frost on a character. So it's like you could be a frontline mage if you wanted to be. And as someone who I always default in Dragon Age to stealth archer at the back. But in Inquisition, I played mage and it was really fun. But you do get to the point where I'm just standing in the back. Just don't worry, folks, I got you.
Sure.
So you can like specialize all the classes to be like a different version of that. Subclasses is nothing new, but the stuff that they had, it was pretty exciting. They talked about one of them having a shield and Captain America-ing it.
Yeah.
And you can like throw it. You begin with, you throw it, it hits an enemy and comes back. But by the end of it, you should be able to do the thing where you throw it, it pings off people, it comes back, you hit it, and then it goes back. And so like they've thought about trying to instill some creativity into it.
Cool.
And they're also, the one thing that I thought was smart, and I'm looking to see how it unfolds, is they're kind of encouraging you to go back and forth between the frozen strategy stuff and the active stuff by overlaying all the like enemy information in the middle of the ability wheel.
Right. Okay.
So as you go along, you learn more about enemies, and when you use it, as well as picking your thing, you also see like this is the health bar. They're weak to this, this, and this. So it's a good opportunity just to pause it and like come back and forth between the two styles.
By the time this is out, the gameplay will have been revealed. Because the gameplay reveal, we're recording this on Tuesday the 11th, by the way. And so gameplay reveal is out. Today. Oh, is it out now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Went out this morning.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. We'll have to watch that. We should have watched that before
Damn.
recording this.
Damn.
But it's actually kind of good, I guess, in case anyone hasn't seen it before to have, like be able to probe like this. So.
And also I can just say like there are things that I saw from the very beginning of the game that really excited me just as like a long-term RPG fan in terms of character customization. I've got my notes here in front of me. Like so many hair options. They were like every strand of hair has been given physics. And,
that sounds like a bad idea for the end.
And I was like,
probably don't do that.
Gollum. There were 3 specializations per class. You had your backstory. Custom difficulty. So if you're struggling with parry windows, you can increase those. You can change what you look like at any point because there's a mirror of transfiguration. Like all these things where it's just like BioWare always have such a strong pedigree in RPG stuff, but things have changed over time. Quality of life things have changed over time, and it's really cool to see them, taking those into account. It was Varric has seen you like to talk your way out of things, which was the thing that I noticed.
I'm interested.
Yeah,
I think the thing that I really want to see next is the prologue was a very not on rails, but it was go. Follow this, there wasn't much chance for exploration or anything. I really want to see if, and I assume it's because it's Dragon Age, it will be open, if it's open world or if it's going to be how they did Inquisition, which was the kind of more hub-based areas. If there's going to be some kind of HQ with all your companions where you're trying to take down Solus, or how that's going to work, how relationships grow and change like over the course of the entire game, because they said like you're not going to have all the companions until like the end of Act 1 because they're going to obviously not introduce everyone at the same time. So feels nice to be excited about Dragon Age.
Yeah, and it also feels nice to be excited about Dragon Age and know that it's coming soon.
That's true.
Either way, we'll know whether it's good or bad. It's pretty
and
soon.
then after that, a Mass Effect game. That's the next thing they're working on.
That's the one of the reasons why I'm like so interested, because like I feel like this is going to be an indication of where BioWare are at.
Please get a W.
Whether they get the chance to make that.
I care more about Mass Effect, but it makes the what's on the line for Dragon Age even like higher stakes. Because
So speaking of third party, because I've got a list of third party games here from the showcase.
Xbox?
Yeah. So I think the bigger one was Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
A Ben Star vehicle.
Boy, we actually had him on this very couch years ago, here. Probably at a different floor of the hotel, but same room, sort of. What do you guys think of that one?
Cool.
All about it.
Yeah. Like out of nowhere. And it was like, what the hell? How's this look this good?
Once they showed the combat and like you just got that glimpse of like it kind of turn-based. I don't know what is going on with it, but like the menu style, this like weird like Dishonored Persona style, like a weird mix-up. I was like, ooh, something different, dude.
Yes.
Finally.
Here we go. Because the team is all ex-UB.
They are,
and this is they're in Montpellier. This is their first game as a brand new team.
But just, because when I first saw it, I was like, it looks a bit sort of Unreal 5 tech demo visually. Because like, I don't know, it just had that look.
Yeah.
But then when I saw it was turn-based combat with the rhythm stuff going on, I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, all right. Like that really that got me.
I'm really curious about the main character. Looks not super badass. Like he looks cool, but he's got a bit of a different posture and a little bit of like a dour face. And I'm like, that's cool. What do we got going on here?
It is giving Lost Odyssey. It reminds me the same kind of energy. And Lost Odyssey in itself was giving Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy
I'm sure
8-ish.
Ben Starr is happy to be working on a project that's being likened to Final Fantasy 8.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's finally getting some time in Final Fantasy world.
So that was really cool. Metal Gear Solid Delta. Jake, how you feeling about that?
How do we feel?
And Tam?
I think we I texted him. Wait, let me read the text.
That was a moment.
Yeah, so you were like,
I was like, what are we thinking? What are we thinking here? Like the meaning of the Metal Gear minds happened over text.
What do you think of Metal Gear? And I said Middle Gear. But I was like, I was we were just memeing.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's
we were
fine.
joking. We were joking.
But yeah, in all seriousness, it looks great. And then the conversation ended with just a text from me saying, I'm at peace.
yeah.
Because you said shot for shot remake is all good by me. And I agree with that. Like shot for shot remake, not fucking around too much.
Yeah.
It does seem like there are some gameplay enhancements.
Yeah, the new
More
camera
movement.
mode is one thing. They have the classic camera, but they have a little more of a dynamic modern camera to it, which makes sense given the amount of time spent in making it look nice. If you're like super far back, you don't really get a chance to enjoy that stuff outside of cutscenes.
The movement too. Like some of the crawling stuff.
Yeah.
He just seems a little quicker.
It looks like almost Metal Gear 5 movement where he's like on his back and shuffling along.
You know what I would love is that if you can play and move like it's Metal Gear Solid 5, but like all the enemies are still just dumb. Like so you just smoke everything. Like, but yeah, it looks good. And I'm still nervous. Like obviously the color palette is different.
Yeah.
Like, are the vibes going to be lost? There's stuff like that. But
Yeah, those are the important considerations, and it's what people are most kind of like critical about. Like people are saying, "Oh, it looks personality-less," and I get it. Yeah, that's true. But also, like, what that game looked like was a limitation of the technology of the time.
Same with Silent Hill 2.
Same with Silent Hill 2. Yeah, and like, it's a perfect example. There's a way to modernize it where it can come out looking bad and it can come out looking good. I would personally say the modernized Silent Hill 2, not looking great. The modernized Metal Gear Solid 3, but in relative to that, I'm like, this looks like really nice. So
Yeah, I'm still like unreasonably hung up on the fact that Kojima's not involved in this.
Yeah.
I just like mentally, I feel kind of
Agreed.
dirty
Yeah.
about that. And I'm just like, if he was like giving this his seal, I know he said like something. He said something at some point, giving it his blessing.
he said
And I'm
Metal
like,
Gear isn't mine.
He was like,
He's
okay,
like,
God. But like that's just him being a cool dude.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you
and
know,
they squashed the beef. And I am the same way, but I'm trying to be a little more self-critical. And the thing I'm thinking is it's because of the history, not because of, you know, what it is like could potentially mean for Kojima. Like if it's a case of like, is he getting kickbacks? Maybe that's fine. But like we weren't critical that Blue Point made Demon Souls without Miyazaki involved to that degree. You know what I mean? Like no one was doing that. It's just because it's Kojima and we love him most.
but also they didn't like, you know.
Yeah, they didn't like have
exactly.
that kind of
Because
like
he hasn't been kicked out of FromSoft.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But like the thing I'm trying to be more, the thing that's helping me get a little more excited about is like we can't keep saddling the people who came after to try and make this franchise something with the history of a conflict between a company and a person, a creator, even if we really love that creator. Yeah. I'm like, me and Jake, I guess, would say like huge Kojima fans, massive Kojima fans.
sure.
Insufferable.
Absolutely.
Annoying. Yeah, like I gave him a Metal Gear Solid t-shirt just minutes ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, and not most of my clothing is Metal Gear related. So, but I am trying to get to the point where I'm like, I'm just going to see what this is and hope that it's good. And maybe that will present some case to be made for there's something more to be done with this franchise. I would rather they tried. I mean, Survive doesn't count for me. I'd rather see something Metal Gear than just be like, write it off completely because I just don't want anyone to touch it.
Yeah, I get
I've
you.
been trying to focus on that. Like, are the people working on it excited about it? Probably. And I've seen a lot of people who never played this and are excited. And I'm like, you know what? I can't
I
yuck
get you.
somebody's yum jumping into this. Because if somebody comes into this, that's what they play. They fall in love with the franchise. Then they're my boy.
Yeah.
And like, I'm in.
Originals are still there as well. Like more playable now. Like the
Than
HD
ever.
collection has its foibles, but it's there and it's playable and it's still good.
Yeah. Also, the voice lines sounded a little more crisp.
Yeah.
So like I'm excited
But-
for things like that.
They did.
But it doesn't sound re-recorded.
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
They were the
Just it's
same.
like it was cool to be in the theater and hear like commencing
Yeah.
virtuous mission.
Pause.
Really did.
There's the pause.
Yeah.
Commenting virtuous mission now.
Now.
Yeah, there's that slight pause. That is how I judged that it was the same. I was
Yes.
like, is the pause there? And that was there.
That's what I was thinking the same. Because it's like the weirdest red line, but it's like perfectly done.
Other third party, there's a whole bunch of third party stuff, just the main shout outs. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn looks kind of fun. I
They
actually
spiced
played
up
this
the marketing
one.
a little bit. Like,
Yes,
it's a
they
little
have
cooler
actually.
now.
So I've like done some. I'll talk about that a bit later. But like it's pretty cool. It's like a Souls light. That Mecha Break game, we saw that one again. Life is Strange, Double Exposure. I've never been about the Life is Strange
I
games.
wish they're not bringing Max back.
I don't know who that
Although
is.
she was the main protagonist of the first
Okay,
game.
right.
when a different developer was making it.
Doesn't have the best luck with best friends, apparently.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. The other one that's worth shouting out is Mixtape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very
that
cool.
really
Makes it look
got us
cool.
because I feel like that's our, I don't know, like
Yeah.
our.
It also made me kind of sad because it reminded me of Hi-Fi Rush in the energy it was giving off.
Yeah,
And I was
true.
like, oh.
But it's the same team who made The Artful Escape.
which I love.
Yep.
I love that.
And
so.
it just looked great. Visually, it was great.
The soundtrack
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about it was clearly just going straight for the like member berries, nostalgia vibes.
Mhm.
But I was like, all right, you got me. You
Yeah.
know, like really leapt out at me as being a strong offering. So,
Also, Atom Fall,
yeah.
Rebellion.
Yeah.
I like what they make. This didn't really show us a lot.
No,
It was
that's
like
it.
Sniper Elite. Sniper
looked
Elite.
like-
Sniper Elite.
Sniper
People-
Elite, but weird.
People have been calling it British Fallout, and that has excited me. I've like,
Yeah,
I want
I'm
to see
into
more
that.
of it. They're like, I would love to see a British Fallout.
Well,
Yeah.
Fallout London's coming real soon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And then there was Frag Punk, another
Yeah.
5v5 shooter, baby.
But those modifiers looked really
Actually,
fun.
that's true.
That
The
looked very
cars and
smart.
stuff.
I
Big
was
hit
like-
mode. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's dumb. And I'm like, oh,
That's
that
actually
makes
sick.
sniping easier.
I
Yeah.
was the
Okay.
Shaquille O'Neal I sleep meme up
Sure.
until the
Yes,
card
that's
break
the
ended,
whole
and my
thing.
eyes were like,
I agree. And that's why it's fun to make fun of hero
I'm
shooters.
so
'cause-
cynical to them.
Totally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you play, like, for example, X Defiant. It's not a hero shooter, but it's in that kind of ballpark, whatever. And then you're like, oh, God. And then you play and you're like, you know what? This is pretty fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I going to play this forever? No. But I had a good time playing it for the X number of hours that I did.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it exists for other people. You know what I mean? So I always just wait. It's the same thing with Concord, where everyone's like,
Yeah.
this sucks. I'm like, let's
Give it a
play it
minute.
first. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I just
So-
hope that the card-based stuff is built into the strategy of the game as opposed to being a gimmick.
Yeah.
I want it to feel like the flashbangs and the smoke grenades feel in Counter-Strike or Valorant more than, just here's a fun thing you can do, big head mode. Cool.
Yeah.
Totally. There was a list of updates, expansions, and remasters. I'll smash through those quickly.
All right.
Starfield, Shattered Space. Is anyone excited to play more Starfield?
I mean, I'm not going to, but I liked the vibe of that trailer.
Okay, yep,
As
cool.
in, like, a little survival horror.
Okay.
But not. I don't know. I'm not
All
going.
right.
I'm not going back. Don't make me go back.
So maybe there's an update to Flight Simulator coming.
That was cool.
Age of Mythology Retold.
Yeah, I played that, so we can talk about that.
Oh,
a
you
little bit.
did? Where
I
was
did.
that playable?
At the Xbox thing?
Damn, at Playdays?
No, at the thing.
Oh, with
where they
their
held
thing
the
over
thing.
in.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't know that.
It was short, but it was cool. I'll tell you all
Okay,
about
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, thanks. Is that embargoed, is it?
I don't know. We'll see
Okay,
what
right,
happens.
sure, whatever. But anyway, it's Age of Mythology, right? It just looks nicer. They haven't
Yeah.
really done much else to it, have
A
they?
little bit.
Okay, interesting. All right, cool.
Hmm.
Fallout 76 is getting its first map expansion in Skyline Valley. It's called Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. When that arm split in two, I was like, oh yeah, baby.
I
We are on now.
She
Let's
recoiled.
go.
I've never seen her be like,
Let's
"Ugh."
go.
I
That
am
was nasty.
so fine with body horror usually,
Yeah,
but then
that
when
was
that
like a
happened, I was
good
like,
one.
But then when your arms become ropes, gore ropes, no
Yeah.
way. Ugh.
So Elder Scrolls Online is getting more DLC, and all the current DLC is free to play.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves is getting season 13 with some stuff, and World of Warcraft is getting its expansion launching 23rd of August. So
That's
there's
pretty big.
that's a lot of live service
Mhm.
stuff that Microsoft has rolling.
Yeah.
And I think that was definitely a theme of this showcase, the fact that they already have a lot of live service revenue rolling through.
And it's working. People like them. And
Well,
they're
because
playing.
they bought what works. They acquired what was good. You know what I mean? So, with the
still-
exception of the Elder Scrolls
Sea of
and
Thieves.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
We've got to give them their credit. We've got to give them their credit.
Dumb question. Is World of Warcraft on Game Pass?
No, hell no. Absolutely not.
Interesting.
Absolutely not.
no, because it's how much is it a month? Like 15?
15.
Like 15
but it's like
yeah.
always been that price as
Yeah.
well. Ever since back when I played. So
Wow,
like
yeah.
the fact that
Yeah.
it stayed the same
right.
price is very interesting.
It's the Costco hot dog of,
Of video game subscriptions.
IQ and meatballs.
So,
oh no, they've gone up in price recently.
to be
This is
fair,
the
yeah.
Arizona iced tea and the Costco
Yeah.
hot dog
Yeah,
of video
right.
games.
So first party stuff. Back to first party stuff. Doom: The Dark Ages.
Sick.
Pretty cool. I am hoping that maybe it pares down a little bit of the thinking I had to do in Doom Eternal.
Thinking. What do you mean thinking?
Strategizing. The fact that you're always having to like juggle resources and fight in different ways. I liked it, but I want to just do murder and feel really cool.
Yeah, it was
Interesting.
very hard to get into the flow state in that game. I
Yeah.
had the same issue where
Yeah.
it's like I was thinking more than feeling and letting my, just the muscle memory take over. I fell off Eternal because of that.
I thought it was a good spin, but I want to go back to just like, okay, all right, now I flamethrower him. Okay, because I need that. And now I do this to him. And now I stab him. Like, just let me be awesome. And seeing this trailer, cool weapons, cool setting. I was intrigued by this whole part of the story reading all the codexes in Doom Eternal. So I hope it's cool. There's a gun that shoots like skull
Shoots
Oh, that
shrapnel.
was
Yeah.
sick. I was
Yeah.
Incredibly sick.
And a
yeah.
Captain America shield. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hang on, is that new now? Like every game is going to have a Captain.
I'm all right with it. Destiny did it first.
It's
though.
really fun.
Air dash. We noticed
Air dash was
in
big.
the Xbox conference, so many games had an air dash.
It's brutal because if it carries on this way, by the time that Captain America game comes out, people are going to be like, this sucks, man.
Shield again.
Oh,
Yeah.
lame. No, it did look. It was an incredible trailer. The music didn't really stand out to me
Didn't
that
punch
much.
as hard.
And I mean, like, we have to remember Mick Gordon is not on this project. He had that falling out.
Rest
with,
in peace. He didn't die.
She didn't
Sorry,
die.
I didn't mean.
No, it seemed like he fucked up, but then it turns out that he probably didn't fuck up, and like it seems like id Software really did him a bad turn. That is still just kind of out there unresolved because he doesn't have the money to take Bethesda to court. It's a bummer because I mean he's like incredibly talented, and the Doom franchise is unquestionably worse for his absence.
Yes.
So it's a real bummer that it ended that way for sure. But yeah, cool trailer, excited for it. Looks great. That was the number one thing in the entire showcase that I was like most. I think everyone really, with the exception of the Gears reveal.
Yeah.
Which is probably good to talk about. Like it was a cinematic, but it was in engine.
Yeah.
And that was a point on Twitter because Jeff Keighley tweeted out it was like CGI, and then some of the developers came in. They're like, well, actually, no, this was all in engine. This is how it will look because this is what we built and whatever. So they've really done some incredible work with the cutscene stuff. Personally, I'm at the point now where I just don't care at all if you don't show me gameplay. Like I do not give a shit about that sort of stuff. Like it's a cool pivot for the franchise because it's the prequel and whatever.
For Gears specifically.
No, in general, like in general, you know, like I'm just at that point now where I'm like, all right, it's cool that you've got a thing, but how far away is it? What's that actually going to look like to play? You know, and so I'm like, it's cool, but it's very interesting that they've stepped away from completing that previous trilogy. They're just leaving that out there. They're like, we'll come back to that at some point. We promise.
Yeah, they did
But
say
that's
that.
the
They put out a
thing.
thing saying like, we'll still get to
But
that.
like, how will they get to that?
The cynical part of me is like, oh, you are pulling on nostalgia strings now by going back and doing a prequel.
Correct.
And it's like when Mad World cropped up as
Sure,
well,
of
I was
course.
just like,
Yeah.
I get what you're going for here, but
It fucking
If it-
worked for me, dude.
oh,
I was
that's the
all
thing.
about it.
It fell
worked.
flat for me
Yeah.
because I was
Damn.
like,
I've actually heard a few people say the same thing because they're like, we're just going back again, aren't we? Like, what else you got that's new kind of thing? And I can understand both sides of it.
no,
I'm not attached to Gears.
me neither, but I really actually enjoyed Gears 5.
Yeah.
I like the new ones. Yeah.
I like them too, but I also was not like, I must finish this trilogy storyline.
Nah.
I didn't really give a shit, you
But
know?
some of the things that they did in Gears, like the way they kind of did more open world stuff, like semi-open worldy things to like, I'll go hit this bit first and then this bit first. And then I just like the way that a lot of character interactions like played out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like that team. So I don't know.
It feels like the result of a meeting where everyone sat down and asked themselves, how do we make Gears a premier, iconic, associated with the platform franchise again? And then someone went, why don't we go back to the characters that got us there?
Yeah.
And that is Dom, Marcus, maybe Baird, maybe Cole.
Yeah.
And it feels like the right decision, but it's also the least exciting decision, if you know what I mean. And I think the issue is that is a familiar thing. There was no release date, and it was CGI, and those, not CGI, in-game assets or whatever. And those compounding together without the gameplay is what people are like, oh gosh, what is this thing? Like if it's those characters, but the game plays in a wild different way, or like new weapons, new items, like weird, like stuff going on with it, then maybe people will be like, oh yeah, it looks, they went back to the old characters, but it looks like it plays really well.
So I got to talk to the developers a little bit. I talked to the creative director, and it's it's Unreal Engine 5 now, which they had announced a while ago. Their next Gears game is going to be on Unreal Engine 5, but they said they've rebuilt it from the ground up. They said it's still going to play like Gears, but they're having fun with that. They're still going to try things and do different things, but they said it's also going to be like a straightforward single player semi-linear thing. Like they're not doing like open world, you're in the city, like nothing like that.
Yeah, that open world stuff was pretty awkward in the last game. Like it was pretty half-assed.
On the little sledge thing.
On the little, like,
I liked the sledge thing.
So did I. It was fun.
It
But
reminded
riding
me
it
of
was
Lost
cool.
Legacy in terms of like I'm doing the same thing over again, but like, you know.
But you could like they had a choice. Like they could either double down to that and actually make it good, or they could retreat back to that more familiar like linear structure. They've obviously chosen to retreat to the same characters and the same structure, which I'm not against. Again, you know what I mean? Like that could be cool, but it's just they're interesting choices.
I predict that we're going to be doing a whole lot of chainsawing. Like I think this is the game where they're like, you can chainsaw the environment now.
And like double down on that.
Run up to cover and just be like, go through that.
That'd be cool.
I don't know how they explain it narratively because technically in the games that follow, the chainsaw would be weaker. But
it's a minor detail.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm curious. So they've said a lot already too in terms of like back to basics, but also back to the atmosphere and the mood. Like the original Gears of War had like some spooky stuff to it. It was very dark. Game. So they're like angling for that again. My question is just like, different team, coalition, like can they really replicate that feel? I don't know, but I think it's interesting, like even just fleshing out those characters and like, you know, coming home from the Pendulum Wars and stuff like that. There is some cool lore stuff there.
It
and
is
like
being set up to go back to the original inspiration as well, like the Band of Brothers style thing. And I feel like that's one of the core principles that it got away from. The one thing I hope it doesn't become another story that hinges on activating the Hammer of Dawn and using that thing on a thing, because that was every
one more
plot
time.
point. It was like, we need the Hammer of Dawn.
We got to turn on the big thing to kill the big thing.
Yeah.
Also, no confirmation yet about whether the actors are returning. I asked.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
They could not
I was gonna
confirm
say
or
because
deny.
like what do you call him?
John DiMaggio.
John DiMaggio is his voice gonna sound the same as like a young?
I mean, he
It worked in X-Men 97. They got away with it.
Oh, okay.
No reason they can't work
and
here.
he was crushing in you know, Gears 5 and the other
He's
Gears.
been doing
Yeah.
that voice.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, really, what's Cliffy B's involvement going to be in this?
None.
He tweeted out
He said it
actually.
was
He's
cool.
like, he was like, see, they didn't need me after all. And it was like, yeah, we know,
Yeah,
man.
but that wasn't
We know,
see,
dude.
they didn't need me after. It was see, they didn't need me
that's
after all.
right. Oh, that was funny.
South of Midnight. What do you guys think of that? It was nice to see gameplay.
I mean, personally, okay, I looked at that gameplay and I think it was similar to me with the Perfect Dark stuff, right? Perfect Dark was kind of a bit difficult. We'll come back to that. But like, I don't know. What do we really see? Like she kind of walked for a bit.
And glided.
And then she jumped and glided. She hit a monster like 3 times and that was it. You know, so I don't know. Like I think a lot of people are like, no, they showed you gameplay. And I'm like, do you really know what it's like to play that game? No. Personally, I actually love the look of that game, by the way. Setting, the whole, like just the vibe of it. Never seen anything set like that before. The writing was really popping off. Like just the giant alligator. The whole thing was like, yeah, great. I'm glad Microsoft is making a game like this for sure. But I'm also at that point where I'm like, well, unless you can actually show me a little more, I'm not really buying what you're selling just yet. You know what I mean? Like,
reminded me of Kino, Bridge of Spirits. That kind of
I can see that.
It looks
combat
really
shot.
nice, but I don't know what the
Weirdly,
game.
And it reminded me of Infamous a little bit. Maybe it was Infamous too, in terms of like when you're going in like the bayou swamps and stuff. But like that kind of like floaty gliding and like the light energy powers. Like I don't know.
Sure.
I would be interested just because we're talking about gameplay and stuff coming up. It's like I might go back and watch an old Xbox E3.
Yeah.
Because they would always get like there would always be a moment where a car would be on stage and then they'd use that as a distraction and get pods up on stage and they would have live gameplay demos. It would obviously be scripted as hell, but you know, it felt like now that they have the developer directs where you can do 15 minutes on Hellblade and 15 minutes on Avowed or whatever, if you know, this is what the showcase is going to be like going forward. It's just trailer and no gameplay.
That was it. And I think that was my, because I think the general like discourse around this showcase was like best one ever. And like, I agree, it was a great showcase for sure. But I looked at quite a few of the titles and I was like, State of Decay, for example, you showed me nothing. Gears.
Fable.
Oh, well,
Don't even get me started.
that was exactly what I was going to transition
Superhands
into
is in
next.
that.
Superhands gave us everything.
Fable is like, we basically got the same trailer that we got last year again.
And they also said
Like
the same thing they did with
beloved
Gears.
British actor. So
I just like, why do we do this? Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I feel that point it's a bit cynical because I'm just like, all right, cool. You're getting people excited about a thing again by showing them the same thing. We haven't moved forward at all. Interestingly, though, Eidos Montreal is co-developing this.
Yes.
And Crystal Dynamics is
on
Perfect Dark. Can we do a swapsies? Because if Perfect Dark is a immersive sim as they say it is, then let's get the Deus Ex people working on that, and let's get the Crystal Dynamics people working on the adventure game. You know, but yeah, I don't know. That was the Fable thing. Really kind of pissed me off. I was like,
That's where I felt frustration because I was, and it doesn't matter. Like my answers will be answered eventually, but I was like, what is the game? Like I really want to know at this point. Like, am I even creating a character? I don't know.
Yes.
I have
Am I
no
playing
idea.
as Matt Berry? Like, you know.
Yeah, what?
Yes.
And they showed it was the same thing where it's like, oh, some of that was actually gameplay, like a character walking. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's
like what
like
do
a
you?
TikTok's worth of gameplay.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't tell.
Yeah, and I think that I guess that's probably like a neat segue into Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of Perfect Dark?
The idea is awesome.
Is it? Tell me,
Looked
what do you think the
cool.
idea is?
A game to me, like I was like, ooh, spy game. You're
Okay.
not just first person shooting.
Okay.
You're doing other stuff.
Okay.
And I was into that. Are the
Im
gadgets
sim
cool?
elements.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's realizing what Perfect Dark wanted to be, but couldn't be back then on the Nintendo 64 or the Xbox. Let's not think about that one.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think the thing that is quite jarring for people is it wasn't that personality wasn't strong. It wasn't strong enough to be depicted in the game. It was through like cool guns, and that was it. But ultimately, still a first-person shooter. This feels like what could Perfect Dark be if we like went back to it and looked at it as a whole, narratively, world-wise. And they're trying to do that, and it's very weird. And I'm kind of into it. It reminded me of the original Prey, the one that got canned. When they brought that back, the rooftop trailer.
What do you
Yeah,
mean,
a lot of
Prey
gadgets.
2 or Prey 1?
The Prey 2.
Prey 2 trailer.
Where the
Bounty
remember?
Hunter.
The Bounty Hunter
I don't
trailer.
know
In
about
terms
that.
of the
That was a
gadgets and
fucking
stuff.
cool
gadgets.
trailer.
That was
that was a really
the
cool
best.
trailer.
That was the
Yeah,
goat.
but in terms
Yeah.
of like the gadgets, and you're in this city that's
Sure.
like very like cyberpunky, futuristic.
Yeah.
Again, not quite sure what the how is it like you talked it? Is it a talkie game or is it an immersive sim game
Yeah.
or is it something in between? What's going on?
My one thought though, I was like, oh, is it this? It's interesting that like this is what they built up this like big like quadruple A studio to make like a immersive sim type of game, which like we've seen before. Like if the Arcane folks put out those bangers and those have trouble selling, it's interesting to see a big expensive studio and publisher go for this type of thing.
Interesting to close Arcane when you are making an immersive sim.
Has it been confirmed to be an immersive sim?
They
No, no,
haven't.
no, no.
It's just
But
like
they have said it's
a
elements.
bunch of things.
They have
Oh.
said, no, I did read some headline that it was like it was being positioned as that. Don't quote me on this, but I definitely saw that like
Interesting.
as a quote from somewhere.
Mm.
Okay.
Immersive sim elements, I think was the
Elements.
phrase.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. So, I mean, look, yeah, I guess I'm really down on this, to be perfectly honest. Like visually, I look at it, I'm like, it just looks so messy. It just doesn't, I don't think it really has any kind of cohesion to it. I also, what do we actually see? Like she wall ran. She held
She
up a little
did
thing,
Mirror's Edge
and
parkour.
then she held up a thing, and then a guard was like, "Oh, what's going on?" She hacked a monitor. The guard moved from over there, and then she could sneak behind him. Like she shot some people in some really
Yeah.
pre-skipped. To me, there was nothing there, and all of it looked really fake. By the way,
Yeah,
Like, I would not be remotely
Yeah.
surprised.
I thought it was
if-
conceptual.
Yeah.
Totally. Or if this game ever releases 4 or 5 years from now, I would not be remotely surprised if everything that we saw there is gone
Yeah.
and it's completely different. Do you know what I mean? So I am so not with this game at this point, like just at all. Nothing spoke to me about it. I don't believe it's real. Even conceptually, I'm just not interested in what it's trying to sell. I'm not there, man.
It's
I don't
getting a
know.
lot of mileage out of not being the thing everyone expected in terms of sentiment. I think a lot of people.
That's what got me.
Yeah, I think that is what a lot of people are responding to. I think you're right. And maybe like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, people will be like, yeah, actually, that might have been a bit smoke and mirrorsy.
Totally.
Like I'm not 100% on board with it. The thing I'm on board with is they're not doing a straight first person shooter.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It's like,
But
I
like-
watched it and I was like, I'm not sure.
What, but
if this
why
is real.
not though? Like, who's making straight first-person shooters these days?
I'm
You know
not
what
saying
I
it's a
mean?
good or bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying like that's what people are responding to, and that's why they're like, "Oh my god, this is cool." But it's just because they were like, "We're gonna get a Call of Duty," but it's
Yeah,
just,
like again, I'm glad that like the immersive sim genre needs more games. Cool, especially AAA. This is and Perfect Dark is like kind of an interesting fit for that, given how gadget focused it is. Like I can see it working, but yeah, just the how little imagination it. Like if you're gonna make an immersive sim, show me some really cool powers and cool tech that shows me that you've got some like the imagination for what that could be. Whereas there was nothing here. It was like, what if the TV turned on? Ooh, you know, like that was literally it. And I was just no. So that was my one, like I was negative take from this whole
foam gun,
showcase.
and it all solidifies so you can jump on it.
No one's done it before.
No one's
It'd
done
be
it.
a- it'd be a
Never-
first time.
yeah.
That's right.
The next one was Avowed. Avowed got a showing.
Sure.
Looks better. Well, but it was a highly edited, nice trailer.
It was.
Yeah. Bit more personality.
Yeah. I mean, I'm look, personally, I don't really care what the trailers look like because I think whatever they're selling doesn't really present well in trailers. I'm just kind of like,
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's Obsidian. They're making their weird, funky fantasy game thing. I'm down. I'm going to check it out. Like, that's personally where I'm at. So, yeah.
Every time I see a trailer, it just shows the key art.
That
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That
And
key
I'm
art
like,
is
they
sick
know
as hell.
fucking sick.
They
dude.
know that they've got the best
It's
key out
so
ever.
cool.
Yeah.
But also, I really wish we'd had a release date for this
It
one.
did get a release date.
Oh, accidentally.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right. I heard about that. November. Is it November 11th?
I can't remember the exact release date, but everyone was like, "Why didn't you put this in the?"
Yeah,
thing?
that's annoying. That is
Do you think they put like
I think it was supposed to be in their deep dive the next day.
or like version _ final, but the release date was in final
Damn,
2.
I've done
Okay,
that.
right,
Or final,
right.
final.
Yeah.
Final. Fuck.
As
That's mine.
YouTubers, we know. We know. Yeah.
The other thing was Stalker. Got to see some Stalker. We got to play some Stalker
We
as
did
well.
get to play some Stalker.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very interested in this because I've not played the previous Stalker games, but from the reveal trailer for this one, it was like everyone's like, it looks very impressive. How does that translate when you actually play it?
Totally different. It feels a little simpler and older. You know,
Okay.
it feels like it gave me the vibe of the old Stalker games, but it's been so long that it's hard to tell. I think the issue for us is that the little slice that we got to play was a really it's a tough game to demo. So, but I don't know. I just didn't really do too much. I planted 2 experimental devices, walked around a field, got like one-shotted by an enemy, and it ended on a cool cutscene that I wish I could have played in a shootout. But
one of those. I hate those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
But I found I got into one good shootout with humans.
Yes.
And I did like that.
Me too.
It like you essentially come up on a field and you're looking down at a field at night and you see guys walking through a grassy field with flashlights and stuff, and you can just I just started shooting at them.
So anyway, I started blasting.
So I started blasting, and I liked it. It wasn't like super easy. It wasn't like there wasn't a lot of like on-screen indicators to the point where there was no on-screen indicator for a grenade, which I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it just felt very like tough and kind of grounded. And I like that. That's what I expected from the series, but I don't know yet, to be honest. Like I haven't seen enough.
Yeah, that's true. And I think like you think, I'm in exactly the same place. I don't know. Because like sometimes you play a slice and you really know. You're like, damn, okay, I get what this game is. Like I played this Kitsunugami Path of the Goddess. I played it for 30 minutes. I'm like, I know what this game is. I know I like it. It's weird. We'll talk about it more later. But with this though, you played 30 minutes of Stalker. You saw nothing. And I would say this is a bad game to demo with a 30-minute slice. They shouldn't have done it this way, to be honest with you. Because you might walk away with negative impressions of it. That I don't think will be fair.
No.
You know, so you need to sit with this game for 4 hours to play it, to really soak up the vibes.
Get
and take
sweaty
your time.
on a keyboard.
All that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like some of its fundamentals in terms of like weapon mechanics were good because they were very stripped back. There wasn't a lot of aim assist and it felt very raw and the weapon feedback was good. Like it just was nice. And the way those humans acted was good. But then there was other shit where it was like just a lot of like, planning a device and then standing around for a bit. The last bit where there was this really exciting end sequence where you have to plant this device and then like some, people rock up and you're like hiding and then you have to throw a smoke grenade so you can retrieve the device because there's a sniper pinning you down and all this sort of shit. You're like, fuck yeah, there's rules. And it's entirely a cutscene. You can't do any of that. And you're like, that should have been playable. And if the demo had finished on that sequence, I would be quite positive on this game right now. I'd be like, all right, yeah. But the fact that was just a cutscene made me go, nah. You know what I mean? So not a great demo, not because the game itself is not good. I think it's way too early to judge, but because the slice itself was not a good slice and it shouldn't have been demoed this way, I don't think.
It is effectively the same reason survival games, they don't demo really well because you need to spend that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Stalker in its original kind of games, basically a survival game, right? Like you need to, the things that happen in it they punctuate long periods of silence and desperately scrounging and
creeping around.
Yeah, creeping around and like pushing back against the challenges of the world. And then something like inflection point happens and it's a surprise. Really hard to show that in this kind of environment. So I think you're right in that probably doesn't demo very well at all.
Well said. Yeah, because for this, it was like, if you just played this demo and you don't know about Stalker, it's like, oh, it's a first-person shooter with like inventory, like deep inventory.
If you want that, that's Metro, which is a kind of like an offshoot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm happy that the game was playable and it was there to see. at the very least, and I'm glad it's coming soon.
I agree.
And I'll judge it then. Other than that, I think that about wraps the Xbox indie.
We'll get copyright struck.
How could I forget about Indiana Jones, man?
That was me doing a whip.
Was that the whip? Was that your whip?
A little spinning.
I may have mixed it up with a lasso.
That's a lasso. That's
and
right.
then I walked it back.
Indiana Jones was interesting for me because they like didn't show any gameplay. They just showed.
Didn't they show the
kind of
same clips as?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, yes.
It was interesting. So I from what I had actually gathered is even what we saw, there is some gameplay apparently throughout some of that.
Yeah, there is.
But we got to see like a cut of just basically a big long cutscene.
Yeah.
And for me, it was interesting because it's almost like they know what they're selling. They're like, we're making a good Indiana Jones thing. Like here you go. This is what you're going to see Indiana Jones doing stuff and it's entertaining. He's not like sad and his son died and he's an alcoholic or whatever. Like,
is that what happens in Indiana Jones?
They kill what's
Shia
his name off screen.
They killed the kid from Even Stevens.
From Holes, respectfully.
When you said that, I was like, I knew we were talking about Shia LaBeouf and I went, they killed beans? I'm not really a big Indiana Jones fan, clearly, because of the question I just asked. But I thought Troy Baker. Troy Baker's voice is.
Yeah, he's doing.
He has been working on that. There are some things that he was saying where I was like,
I agree. I agree. Yeah. At first I was like, but then that was the first trailer. Yeah. I was like, that's Troy Baker. And now you're like, oh wow, all right, yeah, okay.
It's like the lower register, the way he's hanging on some syllables, and just like the no offense, Harrison Ford, the disinterested drawl that he can sometimes have. Like I think,
but then like that getting worked up and yelling, just that like quick yell,
yeah. And they used I feel like in the showcase they did the whole thing where it was like they showed a scene that their studio is known for doing, like that one like monologue evil moment,
goofy villain,
the Frau. It was the Frau
Engel.
Yeah, it's just like that's what the gamers know that studio for. So they showed a bit of that.
But I mean, look, we are like 3 trailers deep now, and this is we still haven't seen a proper look at gameplay.
Yep.
No one has played it outside of studio. You know, the game is apparently releasing this year. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if this gets a delay.
Yeah.
Based upon those numbers alone. So, fair enough. The delay is no big deal. But I just think it's passing strange that this is what they showed off in, not playable, no actual gameplay shown. I'm just, So again, that was another one for me within this showcase that kind of frustrated me, So
I hope there would be the foresight to really actually delay it, because I feel like
if it needs it.
Sure. Yes. Because something like this should, I don't know, even in terms of like not seeing a lot of gameplay, like I feel like we should have, and I feel like something as big as Indiana Jones, they should really be like, it shouldn't feel like this like weird little one-off game that like we kind of know the gameplay. I don't know, it's simple. It should be a big deal.
Okay.
So, but also I don't like what there was like a statistic. It was like people under a certain age like just don't give a shit about Indiana Jones anymore.
That's the thing, right? Everyone thinks this is going to be huge. My secret prediction is that it's not going to be very big.
Yeah.
Because Indiana Jones, that franchise is
dwindling.
Spent.
I mean, I don't really care about Indiana Jones. I'm on the edge of that generational gap, I think. But also, the last 2 movies didn't hit, and it's the Star Warsification of we have to keep retreading the old ground. And in this case, they just keep bringing back Harrison Ford. And it's like, just let the man read in his library. He doesn't have to be
fly airplanes.
He doesn't have to say yes to these things, man. Like, what's he doing them for? He's got enough money now, surely. Unless he's like got a shopping addiction like Elton John or some shit. I don't know.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. It's a big thing, man. It's a big deal.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, that about does it for Indiana Jones. And I think that kind of wraps up the whole Xbox thing. Right? So let's move on.
I did have a gripe with the Xbox thing.
Okay.
And I feel like it's something I was worth mentioning. They didn't do the right thing with the layoff stuff.
Oh, they were banning you if you said the word layoff in chat.
Oh, I heard about that, but that sounded like so unbelievable.
No,
that can't be true.
Nikki
did it.
Test it.
Nikki tested it.
That is fucked.
They didn't ban, they time you out.
Yeah. So the issue I had was, and my brain won't stop being cynical about it, is the exec should have sit this one out.
Oh,
I really think they should have set this on. This was a prime moment to be like, let's do the developers instead. And the conspiracy loving brain part of my brain is like, right now, those execs are in the worst light they have ever been. Using them in the best showcase they've ever had or have had in a long time. It feels like a trying to change the temperature on how people feel about Xbox execs right now.
Because it is.
And it is, yeah. Like,
it absolutely is.
People come away with a positive sentiment and they're hoping that it reflects positively on the people making those decisions. And I get it. I really think it's a cynical way to approach that. This would have been, the better move would have been, let's get these people out of here. Like, let's let the developers introduce their games, say something more meaningful about their games. But I feel like that was a bad move on their part. It's the one thing that I kept thinking about the entire time. It's like, why are you here? And then like there was a point where Matt Booty was standing next to the words "vessel of hatred," and it was like, come on, dude, why didn't no one pause and go, maybe this is a bad idea?
Nice.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected any different though. Like that's just how it goes with these events.
Yeah, it's just a
it
shame.
didn't even enter my mind. You're like, I did hear about the. Okay, if they were timing out people in chat, I can understand that if it's just because people are just spamming lay off. But if they were banning people in chat,
no, it was timing out. I said, I misconstrued that.
I understand because again, if people are just like, sure, I get that your chat's going to get out.
Well,
of
from
control.
an optics perspective, I feel like you have to consider taking that L. Like,
yeah, but I also think that would just make chat unreadable. But to be fair, chat's unreadable anyway.
I do what Twitch does, and like when they do their official broadcast, and it's emote only. Like you can still gauge hype that way.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would never have expected them to do any different with regards to their presence on stage or anything like that. And
they're also getting very, it's getting very like where like it's like the execs appear very like stilted and creepy. Like it almost feels like those Apple things where they're like, "Hi, we're here to tell you about our brand," and it's starting to get a little like,
it's getting Microsofty.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're making Gears of War again. Now we're probably going to finally dive into what we've actually played, some of the stuff we got our hands on. But before that, another word from the sponsor.
All right, time for our weekly check-in on our Incogni. Oh, it's not weekly, it's bi-weekly check-in on our Incogni status. So first of all, Lucy, what's Incogni?
I literally got my Incogni update today, which I will pull up so we can chat about it. But Incogni basically... if ever you have information on the internet at some point, it's probably been sold to some kind of data broker and passed around, and you don't really know who's got your info or why they have it. So what Incogni does is you load up the website, it's super easy, you put in your details, and it goes to all of these data brokers and basically issues a takedown on your behalf. You don't have to do anything. And believe me, you don't want to have to do anything, because looking at this dashboard it sends you all these updates, and it says we've done over 150 takedowns of your data. I'm looking at these websites where my data is. I've never heard of them. I would have no idea to go there to issue a takedown notice. But Incogni does it automatically, and then they send you updates about it, and it just runs in the background, and then I get my little update.
It's just great too to get this stuff taken down, because like with your internet floating, with your information floating around out there so much, it does feel like the internet is kind of following you around. So you want your information down as a matter of safety, yes, but also because like you get more spam, you get shit like that you don't want.
Yeah, and I've said this, and I have been trying to clear out my spam, like unsubscribe from shit or whatever, but I've also noticed, in addition to that, I have been getting less random unsolicited incoming mail into my inbox for sure. I've definitely noticed that because Incogni at this point has now taken down like 70 things from places that I've never even heard of. So in addition to me unsubscribing to all these things, Incogni has taken me off 70 data lists. And yeah, I've definitely felt the benefit of that. So it's really great. You just set and forget. It's a really useful service in this current era where our data is everywhere. So if you'd like to check it out, you can head over to incogni.com. You can throw in the code friendspersecond and you can snag an exclusive 60% off. It's time to reclaim your online space with Incogni. Thank you to them for sponsoring the video.
And we're back. So, there was a lot of things we got our hands on. I think it's going to be tough to really boil it all down, but I think I want to start with Lucy. Something that stood out to you if you want to start with.
Let's start with Metaphor Fantasio.
Amazing.
Great game, terrible name. I think just Metaphor would be
better. I agree.
Is it is it like regarding Fantasio?
No, it's not.
It's not? Okay.
Like an email headline.
Yeah.
It's like Italian or something, and I don't speak Italian, even though my surname is Italian. So,
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know. Buongiorno.
I'm just a Joey Bag of Donuts, as they say in Long Island.
Yeah,
You know, so-
Baldine's over here, you know?
So who played it? Me?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
So it is the new game from, I think it's Studio Zero. So it is the core creative team behind the Persona franchise,
Yep.
and they are making a new studio published by Atlas. Regardless, it's Hashino-san and Sojima-san, and they are basically making, to be extremely reductive, a game that's very, very similar to Persona. It's because we didn't really get like a story trailer or anything when we played it. It was basically
what's the
like, here are
setup?
3 different scenarios that they're going to drop you into. But basically, in terms of you are the character's called a traveling boy, and you basically
It is
befriend.
actually like in the combat menu. You're like scrolling through the names, and the name of the lead character is Traveling Boy.
Traveling Boy.
I love
Well,
that.
he's got a voice, so I assume at some point they're gonna give him a name.
Well, I think, or you give me him because like
Maybe.
But basically, kind of, I assume like similar setup where you're going on. It's all about a journey that you're going on. There's something about a prince.
Yeah, your prince is your homie, and he's been kidnapped.
And he's been kidnapped and you try to get him. And so you come across a bunch of different characters. They join your party, turn-based combat, a little bit of real time actually in there too.
Yeah.
But instead of, so in Persona, they had the, is it tarot? Like the Hierophant, and like each character was tied to a specific archetype. In this one, it is a job system called archetypes. And so each character that you meet, like one of them, Hulkenberg.
What a name!
That's
Great name.
sick.
Yeah, as a
she's
character,
a-
she's
right.
amazing.
She's powerful.
She was like a knight, and then you can also learn to have that move set. So instead of having personas,
It's basically jobs.
there's a job
Yeah.
system, and it's really weird to talk about it because when you play it and when you watch it, you're like, oh, there are so many things, like dungeon crawling during the day, relationship building at night,
right.
except you're on some kind of boat or submarine. And instead of the skills like charisma and everything, you still have that, but they're called your virtues now. Everything kind of has a more fantasy sounding name, but a very similar mix of the gameplay mechanics from the Persona games in terms of how stylish it is, how it feels to play. Feels great to play because it feels like more dynamic because they have more of the real time. So like you go up and you find a little mob of things and you go and kill them all, and then you can start a squad battle where it is the typical turn-based thing.
Okay.
Big boss fights were great. It's, again, try not to be reductive. It's just really cool. My one issue, Persona 5, Persona 4, Persona 3. Anyway, they all had like very distinct visual art styles, and they were bright and in your face, but in a way restrained. I think with Metaphor, they have a really cool visual style, but at some point I was just like, there's too much going on. There is too much on the screen. Like in terms of just like random things that were moving around and like didn't need to be
Yeah, I
in.
think it's because the Persona 5 style, at least, it was transitional. Like a lot of things were sweeping across the screen and would either go away or settle in a corner, or you'd be moving through them quickly. I think there's way too many things just statically eventually stopping on the screen and being very busy. So that's a kind of, it's visual overload.
a little bit. But in terms of gameplay, like I said, it's very, very similar to Persona, but there are some really cool changes. So you could, at any point during a fight, you can restart the battle from the beginning. And as someone who,
Interesting.
there'll be those people who want to, because if you get through the battle without getting hit, it's called like an unscathed victory.
Yeah.
There are other things
How
where
is that restart? Is it like a clean? Is it like a seamless quick restart, or is it?
We didn't hit
we
it.
didn't hit it, but it just
Okay.
said, "Do you want to restart the battle?" So I assume
Okay.
it just goes.
I think
puts you straight back.
because you could do that in the original one, but it was like in one of the previous games. But it was like, do you want to restart? Menu.
The other thing they had is instead of all of your characters standing in one line, or like now there are rows. So you can send, if you want to send your mages to the back to get out of the line of fire, but that might have an impact where one of the healing spells only targets people in one row.
Yeah.
And so there was extra elements of
positioning?
positioning
That's
and
cool.
tactical thinking, which I was really into.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, it's like one of those things where you have an hour. There were 3 different things that we got to see.
It was like a
was
full
like a-
dungeon crawl, a boss fight, which you beat the boss, and then there was like a hybrid thing, I think it was. Yeah.
And so I just give me 10 hours and I'll just sit and play that.
exactly.
But it was like on first glance, on first play, I was like, yeah, we're back, baby.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, I am very excited to just play this for like settle in and play this and let myself get immersed with it. They also did the like were we the monsters all along?
Oh,
thing
the
where
demons are called humans.
Yeah, that's right.
Yo.
And you play demons and they're just like, wow, these humans are real gross, man. But they look like crap. Like,
there's
they look
the-
horrible.
So one of the
Out
human
of, like,
demons.
Sid's toy tour.
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
One of the human demons had the same because you have two different colored eyes, and the traveling boy had two different colored
Yeah.
eyes. So I wonder if that's part of it.
Part of it.
Mm.
And they
It
do
looks-
the thing where it's like you awaken what is effectively a persona.
Yeah, instead of ripping the
ripping-
mask
you, like,
off your
put-
face like in Persona 5, you rip your heart out.
Oh, wow, yeah.
They haven't done that yet?
They've
no.
done
Sounds
the,
like one
they've
that
done
they-
What's the next one? What are they going to rip off next, Jake?
Because they did one where you shoot yourself in the head.
The
and
Enforcer.
like, wipe your ass.
What was Persona 4? I don't think they ripped off an appendage.
No, I don't think they ripped off an appendage. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like
swipe open their phone.
Persona 6, rip your junk off.
I can't remember what was Persona. They definitely had one. It
No,
was
they
like-
take their phone and they throw it. on the
Yeah,
ground.
that's right.
Smash their
That's
cell
ultimate
phone.
psychic damage.
Yeah.
All right, so
Look cool.
That's cool.
I played
Cool.
it as well, just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I thought it was amazing. I honestly just was really blown away by visually. Like, I get what you're saying about the visual noise stuff, but I feel like that really separates it from Persona in a way that I welcomed. Soundtrack was incredible. The pace of it was also really striking, right?
Yep.
Because the combat in a lot of turn-based games, when you play them, like you press a button and then there's like a brief pause and then a wind-up animation and then something happens and then it finishes and there's like these little like brief split-second waits in between things happening. But with this, it was instantaneous. You press a button and snap, immediately the attack plays out, and it makes combat feel so quick all the time in a way that I think people who have less patience for turn-based games are going to probably really appreciate that because it feels like you're getting that instantaneous feedback, even though you're doing turn-based.
It's like when you hit triangle to do auto battle in Persona, and it just like goes.
Sure, it just goes exactly right. Yeah.
Yep.
So I love that. Everything about it. I was just like, this would be amazing to play through. This is the challenge I've always had though, because I played like multiple Persona games, but I could only ever play 20 to 30, 40 hours on them before I have to step off and do other things.
yeah.
And I suspect this will be another 120-hour game. So I hope that I have, when this arrives, I hope I have time in my life for it. Is like essentially
What are
I
you
would
doing on
say.
October 11th?
That's the date, isn't it? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, probably reviewing Call of Duty or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, but I do want to play it. It was really fantastic. So,
I played Sonic Generations
Oh,
or
yeah.
Sonic and Shadow Generations.
Mhm.
And it's a Sonic game. You're not going to believe this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So the whole shadow stuff, it seems like it's kind of like a Bowser's Fury type of deal where it's like you access the shadow stuff separately. But it's pretty much exactly what you expect. It's more of that style of play, but you're Shadow. And the levels are really crazy and zany, but
Doesn't use guns.
he does not use guns.
That's your whole thing, Jake.
I know.
Does he have can you give him a gun? No,
No.
you can't. That's
No,
right.
not badass.
0
He's
out
not
of 10.
cool. Yeah.
That's right.
I think it genuinely is because of the TV show. Like the whole Sonic universe, like you can't put guns in that world, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually know.
Wait,
I'm like a
But I
passive
mean, it could
Sonic
be
fan.
a
Yeah,
rating thing.
Yeah,
You might have like an
maybe
E. You have
Sega
an E
wants to,
rating
like-
with a.
Yeah, make it more G-rated.
Everybody had
for
like
the
an edgy
kids.
2000s, like, that's
Sure.
why we don't have extreme sports anymore. They're all gone, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
so it's fun, it's cool. And then the regular Sonic Generations, it's like, it's like a remaster type of thing. I don't know what, yeah, right? So it looks gorgeous and it still moves by blazingly fast. And like I'm like, am I missing everything? What is going on? Like I actually don't know how to I've never seen one of those games. Like I've never looked up a YouTube video of those games like played perfectly. So I don't know how it goes. Like, like the fast running levels, like 2D levels. Like I don't know how to play that flawlessly. But I played through it and I had a lot of fun. And yeah, it's Sonic.
It's Sonic.
Yeah.
It's another one. I played Astrobot.
Damn.
Yeah.
Tell
played
me.
Astrobot. It is great. Like it really is great. And if there's nothing surprising in it in the sense that if you've played the, tech playroom or whatever it was, it's more of that, right? But it's still fantastic. It's still just really well made, and it's basically it's an overworld map, which is like a galaxy, and you're riding around on this rocket ship, which is the PlayStation thing. And when you load into you can select a level. When you're loading in, you're kind of flying in on the controller, and you use the gyro to kind of tilt to pick up some pickups as you're on your way, and then you land, then you go through the level, and it's finding coins, and it's meeting little PlayStation characters and doing all this sort of stuff, but just really, really brilliantly designed, and so much character in every moment, and just fun, like really fun and pleasant to play through. There was also some like advanced levels that I played through as well, which were like I forget what they called now, but like high difficulty levels. They're clearly not meant for kids. So if they're like the kids are, really talented, sure.
The gamer levels.
Exactly right. And I played 2 of those, and they were tricky, and they were really well made sort of puzzles essentially, where you just need to like kind of get from one end of the level to the other without getting hit, because if you get hit once, you have to go right back to the start. They were fun. It looks beautiful. It runs beautiful. It uses the DualSense really well.
Yeah, are they still doing like
absolutely
fun stuff?
All
with
the
that?
little things. Yep, sure. But nothing new that I encountered in terms of like using it in new ways. But just like how tactile or like the haptic
Everything is,
feedbacks.
yeah.
Everything is there. You know what I mean? So I played it for 45 minutes, and I would have happily kept playing for another like 2, 3, 4 hours. And I think they've said this game is about 4 times the size of what Playroom was. So I think this is going to come in at around about 12-ish hours, which is nice, because it's going to be nice and tight, probably 15 hours for like a completionist trophy.
If they can keep that level of like quality and creativity.
Yeah.
And you got that sense?
Say again?
You were able to kind of get that sense
absolutely.
a little bit?
This did not feel like remotely phoned in. It just felt, and I only saw like a small portion of it. And I did see that at some point we unlocked the what do you call it? God of War, level basically. So there is a God of War level out there that we're going to be able to explore. Couldn't go to it in this build. We were just going in like a generic sunny beach kind of area, but it was really great, and I had a really good time with it. In contrast, I also played the Horizon Lego game.
How was
It
that?
looks cool.
I mean, yeah, it's fine. It's fine, and I think it's co-op. It's 2-player co-op. You play as Aloy, and you could also play as, what's the dude's name?
I have no idea.
Exactly right. Okay.
Broger.
Whatever. I don't know what his name is. Brogan? Is it actually? You just made that up, didn't you? Okay, right. So you can play with that. It was like a tutorial thing first, where you're just kind of learning the ropes. It's very long-ranged combat based. So she has her bow and he has a spear, and you can like hold it down to do harder attacks. You also have your like, what's that thing called? The thing that you wear on your ear?
Oh, no, it's like my focus.
Thank you very much. You can ping the environment,
triangle.
and that will then ping the dinosaurs to see their weak points, and you can shoot their weak points with your bow and whatever.
For massive
You could
damage.
also hide in the brush to like do sneak attacks. You can shoot your bow through fire to like set the monsters on fire. But you can also use that while exploring. So you might see like a cave area or like some vines, but it's covered. And so you need to like burn away what's covering it first by shooting an arrow, into it, and then I can climb up there now. You know what I mean?
Isn't that God of War mechanic?
Yes, actually it is. So look, very simple combat, very simple framework. But what was really strange about it was that Aloy just had this totally different personality, that she was just this perky, happy, funny person. It was
Is
just
it Ashley
jokes.
Birch or no?
It is Ashley Birch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually the whole original voice cast is back, right? And it made me think like she does not have that personality in the game at all. Yep. But then again, like Lego Star Wars characters always have a really hammed up version of their personality.
Yeah.
But the point is, like hammed up Batman or hammed up C-3PO is still working from something, right? But then you just ham it up. But with her, you're working with nothing. Yeah. So what it actually sounds like is just this random person just being happy and jokey. You know what I mean? Just a random person. So it didn't work for me personally, because I am a big fan of the Horizon series, way more than most other people. I like these.
Did we know this about
No,
him?
wait a minute. What? Hold on.
I love.
You did love the last one.
I
didn't
love
you?
the sheer spectacle and technology that goes into those games. I love how incredible that open world. I really believe, unironically, that it has like the best open world combat in any like truly open world video game. Because, well, outside of like your Souls-like stuff, that's a different thing. This came out
I looked at you.
This came out for Elden Ring, right? But like, Yeah, famously it came out for Elden Ring. But if you actually look at what it means to go against those monsters and like what it takes for them to create that kind of cinematic combat and execute in that way, it's astounding, like truly remarkable. So no other game affords you the same sort of combat sandbox in those open world style games. Anyway, I digress. Point is, I like those games. But even I look at this and I'm like, why did you make this? You know what I mean? Like, if they say it's for kids, obviously, and it's like, sure, but at the same time, so is Astrobot, and I loved Astrobot when I played it.
Yeah.
I played, 45 minutes of Astrobot and would have kept playing, but this, I was like, I played 45 minutes, I was like, okay, thank you, I'm good now, I'm done. And like, I'll play a little more of it for review, I guess, but I'm not drawn to it, you know what I mean? So
It's coming out on Switch. Is it coming out on last gen?
that's a good question. I don't know if it's coming PS4, it must be, right? It must be. If it's coming on Switch, it must be.
I hope so. There's someone,
That'd be crazy
there's someone
not
in
to.
my family who really likes the Lego games, and he
Sure.
keeps asking me. He was like,
Sure.
"Is it gonna
What's the
be
deal
a
with the
new
hot
one?"
dog?
The hot dog is just there's a lot of character customization stuff going on. One cool thing you could do actually is you could throw like villagers, you could pick them up in the village, and there's this kind of closet thing that you throw them into the closet, like literally hurl them into this closet, the door slams, and at that point you can just choose what outfit this villager will wear when they're walking around the village, and you can dress them up in the hot dog suit and whatever else.
Okay,
so there's like
cool.
a lot of costumes from Horizon, but there's also a lot of costumes from across other Lego games and Bionicle and whatever else, you know what I mean? All that shit.
Oh man.
So look, I think this is going to be a fun game to play with your kids, but I don't think it's necessarily for adults. And I would say, like, I love the Lego Star Wars game, for example. That was an incredible video game on its own merits, like just for adults and for kids. I just got none of that charm here. I got none of that same thing. So I don't know. I heard a rumor that Lego don't do any partnerships with anything that's M-rated or above.
No, they don't.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you can't have. There was a whole thing about you couldn't have guns in Lego for a
Yeah.
while.
So it's like, which PlayStation property could they have worked with?
Astrobot.
Days Gone.
So this is like Astro is Horizon's kind of all you've got left.
Yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
that was the play. And also because it neatly sells more toys. So you can make a lot of Lego stuff out of this. That makes sense.
I was gonna say when they released that tall neck set, I
Sure.
was like,
It's cool.
It was
yeah,
cool.
it's cool,
I
but
actually
like,
bought that and it got misdelivered to my neighbors. And
you
they,
should have said
They kept it?
yeah,
What?
it's a long story, man.
They were probably like, what is this?
Wow.
My neighbors though, it's a whole story. But
Okay.
like, it's not like I could knock on their doors. They weren't my next door neighbors. They were like a couple of houses down. And it's the kind of neighbor where you don't just knock on their house. But that's a whole other thing.
Damn.
So yeah, anyway, TLDR, it's fine. I just don't understand why this got made. And I'm going to be very interested to see how this actually sells. Very interested indeed.
Well, I looked up and the PlayStation.com listing only has PS5.
Okay, that's really weird. That's really weird.
Tam, you got a good one?
I played Phantom Blade Zero. We all kind of played
Yeah, we
a
did.
little
Just
bit
shared a
about
controller.
it.
Yeah, we gate crashed Ralph's appointment.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want to hear
really
from you,
did.
the people, the guy. You know, you're the guy.
I came away with it thinking it looks nice and it functions like a Ninja Gaiden themed action game should. With a little bit of extra sauce on it with like combos, dialer combo style. Dialer combo basically means that you can. This is the difference between Street Fighter, where you have to input moves and they happen as you do it, and you could, or Tekken, where you go da-da-da-da-da, and then watch it happen. So it was a little bit of that, which doesn't always work with me because it throws my. I'm
I
not
don't like
very
it
much
either.
a rhythm based like combat guy, but that they worked in like a weapon change system where you could do like combos, and then if you switch weapons and they're on cooldown, so you can't just go back and forth. If you switch weapon, you can extend a combo, and there's like range based abilities or weapons.
They're all over
or
the top,
yeah,
too.
they're crazy. Like one giant like lion head cannon thing that appears out of nowhere, bow and arrow. That does wild stuff. It's got a parry system. You can parry the blue ones because it puts you behind them to do like a heavy blow. Red stuff, get out of the way. It uses R1 to dodge, which is weird.
That is weird. I couldn't get used to that.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. The issue I had with it was that the feedback from the combat wasn't good. When I hit stuff, it didn't feel like I was hitting stuff. There was little to no reaction in a lot of the enemies in terms of like, am I landing hits and when should I back off? That kind of stuff. It felt very disjointed in a lot of ways. It felt very empty. And there were times where I was in the middle of a combo and the like enemy that I was, or the boss that I was fighting was just kind of like taking it. and then would just start attacking me as if I was doing nothing. Like I wasn't even there. And
I couldn't get established with those rules. Like,
yeah,
when
exactly.
am I stuttering?
And that is a style of approach as well. You know, Souls-like games, when you hit them, you can see them like really stagger and stuff like that. Whereas these faster action games, there are certain, some of them are designed so that you just attack, and then they'll stop whenever they want, and there's not a lot of feedback. But those usually aren't fun to play. Like they're not great. So I feel like it was missing a lot of feedback, and also the counter system was like busy. Like I was countering and
lot.
yeah. So in like stuff like Sekiro, there's a methodical, almost like strategic nature of doing it. Whereas this feels like you're trying to counter Honda's 100 hand slaps from Street Fighter, and it's unclear what is really happening because sparks are coming out and stuff like that. It's something that I felt happened with Stranger of Paradise, where it wanted you to do like action game stuff, but it was so busy focused on the characters that you kind of like, I lost attachment to it. So I feel like they've got the basics of a action game, but the nuance needed that comes from a lot of the experience of designing these games that a studio like Capcom or Platinum might have isn't there. Like it doesn't have the finesse of those action games. It's got like the basic function, but not the finesse. And I'm interested to see what happens with it. I don't know what stage of development it's at. It shows really, really, really well. Like when you just watch a trailer, you're like, damn, this looks cool. I can't wait to play it. The feel is what I came away thinking, I'm not really excited about this anymore. But maybe they'll get there, you know?
I accept it for its sloppiness in the sense that it's like, I don't know how many games this developer's made before like this or whatever. I think it was nailing enough that I was like, all right, yeah, cool. But I kind of like these sorts of games. I'm into them and I'm willing to sort of like look past some issues. I'm not writing it off at this point being like, nah, but I'm sort of like, okay, I've tempered my expectations going into it. I'm like, all right, I know that, there's going to be some problems here.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was like optimistic that it could be a really, really good one. It's not the next coming of Ninja Gaiden currently or Bayonetta or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yep.
I was just happy to see it wasn't a Souls-like because I thought it was going to be a Souls-like.
Sure.
It's just zany combos. But I think it does have... I just liked how it seemed a little generous. Like I was able to pull off cool stuff. Like the windows were pretty good. But I did like the feeling of like overwhelming an enemy with like a stupid combo. Like totally ridiculous combo. The only thing is that like because of some other games, I'm used to canceling out. And sometimes not, but it was imprecise. I couldn't tell when I was doing something that I couldn't cancel out of and when I could. So I would get stuck in a really long loop and I'd be like, whoa, shit. And then I'd get nailed. But
it also, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a gimmick, if you know what I mean, anymore. And I feel like
Just the weapon swapping,
I guess so. But like the thing that I'm specifically looking for is like a gimmick that improves the flow of the combat.
Right.
So like Bayonetta has witch time, and like that is important to the flow of combo.
Yeah.
I guess Devil May Cry doesn't really have that, but I feel like it's the thing that really helps the flow of that combat is the launch, like where you launch it. And more modern Devil May Cry has like, the hand that you can pull people in with and the stinger from Dante who can move around. I've struggled like moving between enemies, if you know what I mean. I felt like I would kill an enemy and then kind of like dash forward and like trudge over to them. And it was like I needed something to connect everything together and let me like move around easier. So I feel like the traversal is missing a combat like nuance and or gimmick to it.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Just briefly, I played Path of the Goddess, that Kitsunogami. It's very surprising. I had no idea what this was going into.
This is Capcom, right?
It looked like it could have been a character action game for all I knew from some of the trailers. Turns out it's like a tower defense game. And I kind of am into it. Like you basically, so imagine there is a goddess and she is walking along a path. And you need to clear that path for her. And the way you do that is by basically harvesting orbs from the environment, because you load into a stage, you collect orbs, which is kind of hidden in the environment, and then night falls. and then enemies will come in. But at the same time, you will have recruited villagers that you place in sections of the map, and they are essentially the towers, and then they fight back, and you're running around as well, and you're contributing. You harvest orbs from them, and then you bring them back when the sun rises, the attack stops, you bring those back to the goddess, and as you feed those to her, she will move, right? And so that's the whole loop. Like, it really is as simple as that, but it was working, and it was really visually beautiful. The music was fantastic. It had these like little rest stops in between where you could kind of customize different things, and you could obviously, there was like progression for each of the units you could deploy on the field. It was a very small game, it felt like. And I liked that Capcom were making this weird little small game. You know, it really felt like, because everything from Capcom is this big, gigantic banger these days. And here they just sort of obviously saw something they liked, and they're like, yeah, we'll back that. And it's very well made, you know? And so I don't imagine, this reminds me a lot of, what was that weird little, I can't remember the name of it now, that Bayonetta spin-off game that Nintendo did.
Oh, yeah. Cereza.
Yeah, like that. It's kind of like, just weird little shit that no one really expects it, that's kind of doesn't neatly fit into a genre box, but they just wanted to do it, you know, and that's it. So I had a really good time with it. I played it for about 45 minutes, and I really look forward to playing more of it.
I really wish it had a better name. Not a better
Terrible
name.
name.
I think a different name. I think it's a good name for what it is, especially like Japanese wise. Like
Sure.
it makes perfect sense. I worried like, this is one of those games where I'm like, it's a small game, clearly. Like, it probably could be an important thing for them. Like, they put money into this tower defense game, and like that name doesn't give it the best shot of traveling. Just call it Path of the Goddess.
I agree completely. Call Path of the Goddess.
I hope so.
Yeah.
The Kunitsugami part, I don't think it needs that at all. And it could, like, people would see it and be like, oh, it's an anime game, I'm out of here.
Exactly right. Which we see on Steam all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that for sure. But in terms of like finding broad-based popularity, the kind of market they're trying to hit here, like, if it was called Path of the Goddess, it'd make it much easier to sell for sure.
Age of Mythology Retold.
Tell me.
Pretty cool. So
Yeah?
it was a really small slice. It was like 15 minutes or so. But it looks much better, obviously. But it sticks so much with the style still. Like, they even the developers even showed us like side by sides of like the old units versus the new units. So it's like so keeping in with that style. Like, the game doesn't look like a 2024 game. It just looks like a big update from the original. And that's fine. Like, you don't need like ray tracing and crazy stuff for this. But the biggest thing was that they're excited about letting people kind of, you know, do the god fantasy a little bit more. So now the big like god powers are not really something you just kind of end up using once. They're on a cooldown. So there's way more, not a cooldown, sorry. It's something that builds up. So there's way more emphasis on trying to clear as much as the map as possible and, you know, hit everything to continue to build those powers and keep those powers going and just keep blasting. And I really like that. It was very cool.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
smoked the demo because it was very simple, but having all that power it didn't feel like it's too early to tell if it really changes things up, but I think in terms of like fun, it made it cooler.
Yeah,
'Cause,
nice.
I mean, that was the whole appeal of those games. It was like, oh, you have, you know, like Zeus and like all these gods and stuff like that. So to be able to kind of take advantage of that a little bit more and a little more consistently in a round, in a match, good.
Awesome. Yeah, because I was like, Age of Empires, that remaster, all those remasters came out, and I was never that into Age of Empires. Like, whatever. But this one, I was like, yes, I will be there day one for this because I love this series.
So I like the main games, but anytime we did a video on the remasters, people in the comments would always be like, when are they going to do the weird one? When are they going to do the crazy one? Like, let's go. And I'm glad that now this is finally a thing.
Sure.
I didn't play this at Playdays, but the demo did drop during Playdays. The Case of the Golden Idol sequel, The Rise of the Golden Idol. So the first chapter is out as the demo, and it is really
This is for puzzle perverts, right?
Puzzle perverts.
Detective puzzle perverts. It's a whole subgenre of
perversion.
I can't remember. I don't think it's in this notebook. Ralph actually did. Someone DM'd me on Instagram to say that you could get the Lorelei notebook, and thank you very much. And Ralph gave me his, so thank you. But it's just, I wasn't expecting to see it this soon, and I know they announced it. It's really good. It's just it was the whole first chapter, and they did a really clever thing. There's a quality of life update that is going to sound So dumb.
Okay.
So Case of the Golden Idol, you interact with things in the environment. It's like a static scene, like slight animations here and there. You click on something, a bunch of words are underlined. You click on them, they get added to at the bottom of your screen. And then what you do is you make deductions and basically spell out what happens in the scene. So this person pushed this person off a cliff because of this. You fill in the words as you found them in the environment. It was kind of annoying to have to keep getting those up on the screen.
Yeah.
And now the windows, so you identify all the characters. That's a specific window you can have, and you can move it around the scene. So you can have it up. It's modular. And so if I'm like, oh, I remember there was something about this one character in this bit, I don't have to completely collapse it, open a thing, you can have them up at the same time.
Sure.
And then there's one button that clears all of the windows down. And I was just playing it and I was like, this is so simple, but this is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Wow.
It's like getting a second monitor.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, where you're like, oh my God, I have complete freedom.
So-
I'm going to be unstoppable.
But again, I love a puzzle game that's just makes you feel triumphant and
Yeah,
makes you
smart.
feel smart. And I think they've nailed it. And also it's about a creepy, creepy cult. So I'm always in. And it was
Nice.
great. It took me about an hour to do the first chapter.
Cool.
Just going to say, thank goodness you hear demos out and
Yes.
rules. Very British, so very funny.
Good.
It's the British game.
Of course, of course, of course.
You got another one for us?
Me? Oh, it was going to be thank goodness you're here.
Fear the Spotlight.
Fear the Spotlight, yeah. Fear the Spotlight was
Oh,
one
yeah.
of them. That's the first, not the first. Is it the first
It
game?
is the first Blumhouse.
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
the one they're
yeah.
out promoting right now. Yeah, Fear the Spotlight. Couple of people, two people making that game. Very classic style, visually and how it plays horror game. Really well done in matching that visual style with the type thematically and mechanically. How they scare people. Like that style is a nostalgic style, right? It's also a nostalgic kind of story in terms of it's a classic horror trope. Couple of people.
One of them's a goody two
One of the
shoes,
goody
one's
two,
a
one of
rebel
them's
goth.
like Rebel
Ouija board,
goth,
haunted
Ouija
library.
board, school.
Yeah.
Right.
Some stuff has happened in school. It's a very like almost comforting old kind of classic
Yes.
horror trope, and it has that kind of well thought out synergy between all the elements of it. In terms of how you play it, what we had was very simple. It kind of has a little bit of the Golden Idol kind of like simplicity to satisfaction pipeline, where it's like the main thing I was doing was just kind of like going up to shining things and hitting it, and it will give me a bit of text, like when you inspect something in Resident Evil, and there might be an opportunity to move a hand cursor and like grab something, open the door, pick it up, and then move on. There's not like combat as far as I can tell.
But there's one thing that we didn't get to see in action is that the main character who you control is asthmatic.
Yeah.
And so at one
Oh.
point you pick up an inhaler, and on the inventory menu, there is a picture of her lungs.
Yeah.
Like breathing in and out, and it was green in the back, kind of like the Resident
Evil, like,
Oh, yeah,
health.
sure, sure.
health thing.
Yeah, health
So I
monitor.
wonder if, and we got to a point where basically, you do the seance and stuff goes sideways. I wonder if there are going to be points
Yeah, I
where that
think-
is going to.
Sure.
So the bit we played was it seems like the very beginning where stuff starts to get weird. And in that moment, like, I guess the reasoning is that she doesn't immediately have an asthma attack. Like, you'll get there over time. It could just be a very mechanical thing where it's like, this is your health. But the gameplay was avoiding things. Like, there's one point where there's an actual spotlight, like a camera, and you just got to wait for it to go and then go through it and that kind of stuff. So I think what the potential lies in realizing that nostalgic kind of horror trope in an interesting way, telling that to young girls in a school story, having the kind of like the social standings of, kids involved underneath it. There's reference I picked up a note and they're like, we don't understand why this why this person is hanging out with that goth girl or whatever. There's clearly like some bitchiness going on there.
And the goody two shoes,
Yeah.
and like you go in the library and she's with the goth girl who's like she thinks is really cool.
Yeah.
And behind the
It's like
desk in the library,
she was like
there's
employee of the month.
helper of the month.
Exactly. That's so funny.
And then also kind of like I think that's the main thing, and also how they use that simple mechanic of picking things up. They indicated that it starts off very simple, like open drawer or whatever it may be, but they start to get weird with it. And I imagine as it delves deeper and deeper into the occult stuff, it'll get a little more interesting. But baseline, like really atmospheric. Lucy and I managed to, thanks to Alex Shea over
Shouts to Alex.
Yeah, he rigged it up so we could both have headphones.
Oh, cool.
So
Sweet.
we were
Nice.
able to experience the ambience together.
Yeah.
And you got jump scared once.
Yeah.
I did.
And others around were like, it was that moment where
There's a girl next.
he was like, "Don't do this! Don't do this!" And she's making her do it. And it's, "Don't do this!" And so it's like, it's clear Blumhouse have figured out, or are being very intentional in translating their strategy and the types of horror that they like into video games.
Yeah.
I asked them during our interview on Gamespot Live, are you going to scale up to bigger budget horror games, that have more production value? And they outright were like, nope, we're going to do indie only.
Respect.
That's what we
Yeah.
want.
Love
And
to
I was
see
like,
it.
I respect that. Yeah.
Like even
They're not
that
going to
whole
compete with
slate.
Capcom anyway.
That whole slate, there's like something like there was one in there which is a farming game, but you're
Yeah,
solving
yeah.
like
But
a
there's
murder.
murder.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
There's the Cronenberg Sam Barlow game,
Yes.
Project
Yeah,
C.
which we
There's
don't even.
don't know anything about, but
Yeah.
there's like one where it's a horror game is found at the site of a murder. It's like all these different elements, and I was like, I'd be interested in any single one of these.
I'm very, very excited and somewhat appreciative as well that horror is now in a state where horror games were a niche for a really long time. And they came back thanks to like Resident Evil and like they have a subset, but they are very like high budget, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I'm glad that there now exists a concerted effort to do interesting horror from an indie perspective.
that aren't just meme games.
That aren't just meme games,
Yeah.
like, whatever that
Five
Freddy,
Nights at
Five Nights at Freddy.
Slender
And it's-
Man.
Yeah, and it's coming from a place or a company that understands horror and is also like already said that they're not just doing it for the quick buck and run. They're like here to invest in horror as a genre within the gaming space. That's exciting if you love horror games. You're like, oh, we've got a road ahead of us. So
Sets them up for good movie deals.
yeah, exactly.
I
That
was
is
gonna
the
say, 'cause
other thing.
you're already going to own the IP.
Yeah.
There,
Very
with
smart.
Fear of the Spotlight too, there could be like the cynical, like there could be a game like this that has that type of old school filter, and it's like it feels like Silent Hill or Resident Evil, but the way they're using the visual style in it just makes me so happy, and it also makes me think that like if a bigger thing like Blumhouse signed up for that, they've got a good idea on how things are going, because like Fear of the Spotlight, like it's obviously like it's super pixelated lo-fi and like the draw distance is like 3 feet like right in front of you, but it was also the fact that things were flickering
Yeah.
that I was like, oh yeah, like when like those like PS1 textures start flickering, I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
that hits.
Couple
But-
of edges overlapping. that
Yes,
kind of
yes.
thing.
Oh yeah, like her hair when she bent down.
But not only is it like it just looks good, but that style is used to sometimes you can't see too far in front of you, like when the girl disappears and it's dark and you can kind of make out the background, but you can't really because of those visuals.
visuals.
That is like where they're using it, and that just has me
Very
excited
clever.
for the whole thing.
Very briefly,
Yes,
because we got to wrap up soon. Plucky Squire.
Oh man,
Played an hour of it.
I wish
It's
I got it.
fantastic.
Yay.
You're going to
good.
love it. Everyone's going to love it. It really is just exceeding expectations. Skate Story. Holy shit. Unbelievable. Like just wild. Even the stuff that we've seen doesn't prepare you for how good it is. And then Monster Hunter Wilds was the single best thing that I saw at this entire showcase.
wow.
No one is prepared for how good Monster Hunter Wild is. It's like,
Can you explain to me? Somebody
go on.
told me it was seamless.
Yes.
That's huge.
You just
Wow.
go from the town and you just walk out the town and you start your hunt. There's no loading screen, there's no whatever.
That's it.
And when the hunt ends, you just standing around. You don't get booted back to town, whatever else. But that's
They
like,
finally did it.
yeah,
They've been
but
building
that's
towards
almost
that.
like the least impressive thing that's in there. I mean, I can't go into all the detail because it would take too long.
Yeah.
But it's just there's so many things that they have added to this video game, and it looks unbelievable. It's such a crazy flex. I went into this thinking, oh yeah, more Monster Hunter, yeah, like another Monster Hunter Worlds. I walked out thinking, fuck me, Jesus Christ, calm down, Capcom, like for real.
I have a couple questions.
Go on.
Does it feel like an extension of? Does that all that interesting intricacy
Yes.
come as an extension of the original Monster Hunter template, where it's like the various systems all colliding together is what makes it like interesting, but also difficult to play, or is it an extension of Worlds where they started to streamline it and figure things out, and it was more approachable for people who weren't long-term Monster Hunter fans?
I don't think this adds much more approachability. except in the fact that this is the first game where you can summon 3 AI companions in a whim.
Gotcha.
And boom,
Wow.
they're there, which is crazy. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Shit.
They just put up a flare and they're like, well, this is an offline game. So we just had 3 AI companions join us. And there they were immediately, and off you went. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So like that alone, I think is huge for what it means to play this game. Because if the monster isn't on you all the time, it makes it so much easier.
Oh yeah.
So that's just one example. But look, Worlds, yeah, it streamlined it. But I think that is the general direction of this franchise from now on,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to go back to the more painful things
This, the way you play it like this.
Yeah, none of that. No, it's not going to go back to those days because they had too much success with Wilds. Rise was a continuation of that as well.
Yeah.
This is the same design ethos, but they just added so many new systems and ideas to it that it just feels incredibly robust. Wait till everyone sees it. It's gonna
Second
be wild.
question, they might not have talked about it. Have they streamlined or made it easier to actually set up multiplayer?
That's a good question because it's
Because
seamless.
Monster Hunter fans, they will put
Well,
up
because
with
it's,
that.
yeah, because it's seamless. I imagine it would probably be different. I didn't actually. It's a good question. I didn't ask because I actually did interview like 3 of the senior developers.
Yeah.
I didn't ask this, but because it's seamless, like you couldn't do that old system anymore,
The boards
right?
and stuff like that.
Yeah, you couldn't. You'd have to do something else. So I don't know what that is.
I hope that is because I feel like I got multiple people to take an interest in Monster Hunter and they were like, fine, let's play this.
Yeah.
And the breaking point was immediately like getting into the game. I'm talking about her.
Sure.
It was like that was enough friction
Oh,
points where you had to like hit this, go there, do that, and now you're in a multiplayer game
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it pushed
yeah.
people
Because
away.
it was the Overwatch squad. I remember us
Yep.
trying to do
That's
it.
right.
And it was not good.
Crazy. Anyway, that was me.
Anybody else before we wrap this up?
Too many games, not enough time. I like my wish lists of. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many good games.
It was a good show.
Good show.
It was a
Feel
good,
good
show.
about the future. It's not just like, oh, Grand Theft Auto 6 will come out eventually.
Yeah.
There is plenty
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
stuff,
I agree.
big and small.
Yeah, definitely.
And now I'm going to sleep for 8,000.
Now we're all going to sleep,
Hell
ladies
yeah,
and
baby.
gentlemen. This has been the Friends Per Second podcast. We're probably going to be talking about even more games in the next episode. I just feel like things are
Yeah.
going to come up naturally that we've talked about or we
Yeah.
saw just in passing.
Yes.
We might talk about Elden Ring. I don't know.
We're going to have to talk about Elden Ring.
Yes.
And Destiny. Look forward to
I
that.
can't wait.
I
to-
genuinely am
yeah.
excited to hear you
No,
talk
I
about
actually
it.
have not touched it since I've been here because I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
The entire Destiny community is like, it's so good, man. It's perfect. It's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, I wish I was there, you know? So,
All right, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Tam, how's it going? Where can people find you?
I'm on the internet. You don't need to find me. It's fine.
I love it.
Well, thank
Love
you
it.
for always being here with us. It's nice
Thank
to
you
always
Yeah.
again.
have the in-person
Being
thing
here
with you, man.
always. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, this has been Friends Per Second. You know, you can rate us on all the places. You can listen to us, or you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on all the platforms. Thank you very much for being here with us for this extra long episode.
Very.
Tie your shoes and go to bed.